Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News this afternoon. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Across from me is Carlene Bragg.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am powering through.
We're powering through.
Welcome back if you watched during the 9 to 11 stream. We're back here, Carlene and I, on the 12:30 stream this afternoon. Busy, a lot going on. Yeah, I promise you, it's busy this morning and it's busy this afternoon. Things have not changed. It's the world of news. And look, we're here for the ride. All right, let's get to our top headlines for today. First, let's start out. So the city of Charlotte, the community is honoring a civil rights attorney, James E. Ferguson II, with a celebration of life today. Charlotte is paying tribute today, the life and legacy of renowned civil rights attorney James E. Ferguson II, who died back on July 21st at the age of 82, known as a pioneering lawyer, mentor, and social justice advocate. Ferguson's decades-long fight for equality left a profound impact on North Carolina and beyond. So that celebration of life service is being held at the Park Church on Beatties Ford Road here in Charlotte. It's underway right now as we speak. We're also following, we went straight to the press conference this morning over in Fort Stewart to get an update on the shooting investigation there. So here's what we have. An active duty soldier opened fire at the Army base in Southeast Georgia on Wednesday, injuring 5 service members before he was subdued by witnesses. And as we learned from that press conference, soldiers on the base, as far as the 5 service members that were hurt, 3 are out of the hospital. 1 is being treated on base, and 1 is being treated at the hospital. The suspected gunman, has been identified as Cornelius Radford, an automated logistics sergeant. So as soon as more information comes in on that investigation, we will continue to update you here on Live Impact News. And I just want to put that out there. We got the news of this shooting moments before we hopped on the stream, so we were on top of that for much of the afternoon and into the evening yesterday. So that's why it's important to stick with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Another big headline that we're following: new tariffs are in effect. President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs took effect today, just after midnight, affecting everything from European appliances and Japanese cars to a slew of goods from China. So, again, those tariffs took effect today. All right, those are your headlines that we are following for you right now. Let's check in on the forecast. I was telling Carlene it's cold in the studios, and
it's a chilly in here.
So
it's a little chilly.
I had the bright idea of going outside to thaw out.
Yeah,
you know, that's what you do in the summertime. You thaw out.
It ain't that warm out.
I didn't thaw out. And I left my keys in the newsroom, so it was a quick trip. I walked to my car, and it's misting outside at the time, and I had to walk back with my head down. But my head is back up because I'm back on the stream. Let's check in with meteorologist Majestic Soil for our forecast.
We will eventually get back to summertime weather.
Eventually, yes. I mean, even this weekend, I'm looking forward to it. A nice improvement. But first things first, there's a live camera view of outside. It's another dreary day out there. We do have mainly overcast conditions. Temperatures still on the cooler side, especially for an August forecast. And a few stray showers are still popping up. Now, this weekend, if you're starting to make some plans, I think we will have a little bit of sunshine. Temperatures rise back into the 80s. And then next week, if you've been missing that heat and humidity, maybe that sunshine as well, next week it'll actually feel like what it should for this time of the year. Let's get to it. Here's our satellite and radar. Still seeing a whole lot of cloud coverage out there, and you can still see some rain streaming in for parts of our viewing area. Now, not everyone, and it's kind of a mix of really light rain, possibly some mist or drizzle out there. You can see it even as we switch it over to our Doppler radar. And this is actually the area that has received the most amount of rain this morning. A lot of us have just been kind of dry and overcast, maybe just that misty conditions that we've been waking up to. That's what most of us have seen, but really that's where we have seen some accumulating rain, especially out there towards Raleigh. As we're looking at the rest of the day today, still more clouds and sunshine. Now, if we get lucky, which there is a good opportunity for that, maybe a little bit of peaks of sunshine later on in the late afternoon, early evening. 70s today, and then getting a little warmer as we're heading into tomorrow. Yesterday was better than the day before, and today hopefully gets better than where we were yesterday. We topped off at 74 degrees for our forecasted high, and today we're forecasting 77 for the Charlotte metro area. Now remember, we should be into the low end of the 90s, so we're still really far from where we should be for this time of the year. We have some foggy conditions out there across the mountain locations. Temperatures into the lower end of the 70s, 70 out there towards Banner Elk, 69 for Blowing Rock as we head towards the foothills, mainly mid to upper 70s today. For your forecasted high out there in Lenore, 78 degrees, 76 for Statesville, and everyone in Gastonia today, let's plan for 77 for you, Rock Hill and Lancaster. So as we head throughout the day today, let's plan for 70s. But you can see by tomorrow, we finally get the return of some 80-degree temperatures, much the same as we're heading towards the weekend, but we're on this gradual warming trend. So you can see after this weekend and even into next week, that's when it starts to become a little hotter, I would say. By the middle to end of next week, temperatures start to spike back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. And the Climate Prediction Center is also showing a surge of warmer air really taking over the south again, meaning that the possibility of us seeing the return of above average temperatures, especially between August 14th and 20th, it looks like it's going to be likely. So again, I know many of you like the cool down, you like the cooler temperatures. If that's you, I'm saying just enjoy it. Enjoy today. It's just kind of a gloomy one, and tomorrow again going to stay relatively nice, kind of a middle ground with 80s returning. As far as the precipitation goes, if you want to go to the pool, if you want to go to the lake this weekend, now it's not going to be perfect, but 80s, that's all right. Small chances for a pop-up shower possible. And then especially on Monday, we'll see some more rain. Now this is what Futurecast could look like as we're heading into that 6 o'clock time frame. Maybe you're driving home from work or just into the later half of the day. Still cloudy, could still see a stray shower or two. And then again, as we're heading into our Friday, more sunshine. So looking forward to that. There's our 3-day forecast. 80-degree temperatures are on the way. Not so much today, but I do think by tomorrow we'll hit 80 degrees. And then there you go, Ben. This weekend, not looking bad whatsoever. Good mix of sun and clouds, 83 for a high on Saturday, and then getting warmer by about Wednesday. Upper 80s and low 90s will return.
You hear that, Carlene? It's getting warmer. You sounds like a ladder.
I'm so excited.
Carlene?
I want to splish splash some more. That's my thing. I want to splish splash. That's what summer's for.
I mean, it rained.
I can't splish splash in this weather. I know that's not the same. That's not the same, Nicholas.
James thought it was funny.
I know James is sitting here cracking up. I don't want to splish splash with galoshes on in a puddle. I want to jump in a pool.
See, okay, now you specified. You didn't really.
I want to float on the
To be fair,
Catawba.
James, she did not go into
No.
detail about splish splashing.
We had the back to school photos.
Yeah.
So it was like little Carlene. I was
Yeah.
picturing like little Carlene
Carlene's-
in a raincoat with like red boots and an umbrella, just like frolicking down through the puddles.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so clarifying, Carlene wants another pool, wants
I
more
want
pool days.
I want to float on the Catawba River. I want to
You
go.
want your
Lake
boat day
Norman.
back.
I want to get my boat day back.
There you
I'm
go.
owed a boat day.
She sold a lot. Look,
If you own a boat,
Yes.
we're going to sort this out, but in the meantime, we need to get to some news. Carlene. All right, let's go now to Austin, Texas,
Yes.
where Texas leaders, the Senate Special Committee on Congressional Redistricting, is meeting right now. This is a live look. So the Texas legislator, they're at a standstill after House Democrats fled the state in a bid to block the Republican effort to redraw congressional districts in the GOP's favor. So
Yesterday we saw them in Boston.
Yeah.
Like they've been kind of all over.
Illinois.
Yeah. Connecticut.
They've scattered.
Yes.
Again, they're at a standstill right now in the Texas legislature, but the Senate Special Committee is meeting right now. I believe they're taking public comment.
It looks that way, and also it's important to note this has been going on for hours.
Yeah, it has, and it's a major issue that could have implications across the country. So again, a lot of eyes here on Texas. Let's take a listen in.
To take a step back and reconsider this rash action. Have the courage, integrity, and will to vote no and keep this awful bill, with respect, from leaving your committee. Voting yes will only serve to undermine faith in our government and faith in you. If you will not hear my words, I can only ask that you heed this warning from George Washington in his farewell address. However political parties may now and then answer popular ends, they are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of the government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. The time that Washington warned us against is now. You have the power to step back from this precipice. Senators, please heed this warning from our first president. Serve democracy over party. Serve state over party, our state. This bill undercuts our great experiment. Vote against SB 4. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. for your testimony. Dr. Carranza, welcome. You know how to do this. Get that microphone close, introduce yourself, and go ahead.
I am Dr. Susana Carranza, representing myself, and I oppose this horrible bill and this entire rush process. The chair, Mr. King, has claimed this was a wonderful process, citing the early MAPLES hearings. Well, being forced to mark neutral when so many of us said hell no does not sound like a fair process to me. Texas do not want this rush process or this map. Yet, you filed the same exact map that will illegally break communities of color, of interest, and gerrymander cities, and receive overwhelming rejection last Friday at the House hearings. The chair also mentioned the horrors of the previous administration as a motivation for the new districts. You mean like ICE? Pulling people out of cars because they look brown? Well, that was not the previous administration. This is happening right now. I'm a naturalized citizen who has called the U.S. home for more than half my life. I was born in Brazil during peak dictatorship when people were being disappeared. Kind of sounds similar. There's a movie, I'm Still Here, and you might learn something from it. As a little kid, I went to pro-democracy rallies with my older siblings. I was lucky to see the transition out of dictatorship. Right now, you all, with this map, are handing down on a silver platter our democracy to Trump. It's not too late. I support House members who are breaking quorum to defend Texans, and if you really want to learn from history, you're going to withdraw this map right now and switch the focus to flood, because if you say, well, maybe if they come back, we'll work on things, well, work on floods, all right? Do the right thing.
Thanks for
You'll
your
have time.
Thanks, Dr. Carranza, for your testimony. Senator King, Chairman King, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you, Doctor, and thanks for being here today. Just wanted to make sure of something. You said you were required to vote or to mark neutral when you registered?
On the MAPLES hearings, like last
But
week.
today, you were able to register
yes.
opposition. Okay, just want to make sure the registration process was working right.
Yes, it is. Can I continue? I'm saying that you're using the previous hearings to say this was open and fair, but people could not officially say they opposed before while they clearly opposed during the Senate hearings, where their words clearly oppose. So, and today, I understand, I marked against. I have been here a time or many, as some of you have known. But having to mark neutral last week felt really, really horrible because I was not neutral at all.
Just so everybody understands how that works, anytime there's not someone mentioned the flood hearings. In the flood hearings, if you registered to testify, you had to register neutral because there's no bill before the committee under consideration. So that's why you would mark neutral. The same thing was true in the redistricting hearings before there was a map. That's exactly why we're having public testimony today, is because we have a map and we wanted people to be able to register that they're for it, neutral on it, or against it. So that's why that occurred earlier. But now that there is a map, a bill, that anyone who registers to testify can register their opposition to it. So that's kind of how that works for the general public's knowledge. Now, I know you know that, Doctor.
I understand the process, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senators, any other questions for our witnesses on this panel? Thank you for being here. You're excused. And for the benefit of those listening who may not be familiar with the process, anyone who's watched knows that every witness was allowed and encouraged to fully express their opinion for or against anything, and no one has even suggested that a registration of neutral on the topic was a support or anything like that for the redistricting process. And again, folks familiar with the process know, but we sure wouldn't want someone listening in who doesn't know how that system works to be misled. So with that, thank you. Chair again calls Nick Malberg. Called Nick on the last panel. Want to make sure everybody has a chance. Also call again Anthony Gutierrez. Lauren Pena. Melody Tremolo. I know they're over. Come on down, have a seat. I know there are overflow rooms. We'll give folks time to get here. Also looking for Becky Bullard. Called Joe M. Good. I'll call Emily Yemington. Courtney Benton. Call Courtney Benton. Sarah Beck. Sarah Beck. John McKiernan Gonzalez. And please come on down. And if I called your name and you enter the room, come on down. We'll have a seat for you. And we'll continue to call witnesses whenever everyone to have a chance. I call David Chinkanchan. David Chinkanchan. Call Sarah Cinco. Sarah Cinco. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, and excuse me for interrupting.
Please.
But I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable out there. It's kind of freezing up here. Is anybody freezing out there or too hot? Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. We'll see if we can't get them to crank it up a couple of degrees. I apologize for that.
And if I called your name, we have a seat for you. Please come on down. And I'm going to call a couple more names so that folks can be making their way into this room because we're going to have you on the next panel. So for the next panel, we'll be looking for Dr. Nancy Semin, Denise Palacios, and of course anyone who I called before will get you on the next one. So thank you for working with us. Want to make sure everyone gets to testify. And we'll start over here. So when you're ready, pull that microphone close, introduce yourself, and give us your testimony.
Hi all, my name is Emily Yemington, and I'm representing myself against redistricting. I was born and raised here in Austin, Texas. I'm a biomedical engineer, newly graduated from UT Austin, Hookham, and I'm just about to start my PhD. This bill is obviously a result of the DOJ asking for 5 more seats. This isn't an accidental, oops, I redistricted Texas and accidentally found exactly the number of seats Epstein's bestie asked for. And this is not just scrounging through the couch cushions for some loose votes. You're being obtuse if you think 1 vote before the redistricting is equal to 1 after. You're literally redrawing the map to dilute communities you disagree with. If this were truly a body of representatives, an independent third party would be redrawing these districts by community interest and need. Anything else is a blatant admission that your ideas and policies are not good enough to faithfully convert Texans, even with the currently gerrymandered map. But Epstein's best friend is clearly scared of what non-gerrymandered voters might think. Are you? Let's not pretend that you're not aware of the context of this redistricting or that there is any good faith redrawing on behalf of the people who testified at previous hearings. Saying that the map is race-blind does not change the fact that it will disproportionately suppress brown and black communities. The intent may not be racist, but it doesn't really matter because the effect is racist. Either way, it's clear that most Texans don't want this. I was taught growing up the Texas Capitol, this building, stands taller than the one in D.C. We fly our state flag at the same height as our country's. We are the Lone Star State. For better or worse, I was taught that I'm a Texan first and an American second. I ask you all to be Texans first, like the brave House representatives who are breaking quorum right now. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your testimony. Welcome. Introduce yourself and give us your testimony. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. My name is Courtney Benton, lawyer and community advocate. I'm a resident of Austin, Texas, and I stay in Congressional District 37. I stand here in opposition of the redistricting and the proposed Texas congressional map, SB 4. So my question today is, what is democracy? And where did our democracy go? According to Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute, democracy is a system of government in which the right to govern lies with the people. Democracy is valued for promoting political stability, individual freedoms, and accountability in governance, allowing for peaceful transfers of power and providing mechanisms to redress grievances and injustices. As a Black resident of Austin, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe because of the results of what this map will do to suppress votes and voices of people whose vote and voice matters. With the proposed Texas congressional map, this race-based racial gerrymandering is in play and negatively impacts many people in many communities, especially our Black and brown communities, something that has gone on for years. It was mentioned that 2 objectives were used in making this map, compactness and 5 Republican seats. Although there may have not been a racial intention, that is not the case what will result from this map. So now that you know and have heard the testimonies and see that there will be less representation for people of color, specifically Black and brown communities, what will you do next? Will you care? Will you do anything? When is enough enough? I always hated the word gerrymandering, but today I understand what it means more than ever. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. One day I know the struggle will change. There's got to be a change, not only for Texas, not only for people in the United States, but people all over the world. However, the very right here that I'm sitting here fighting for a fundamental right as boundaries around me get manipulated at the cost of our citizens. The very right that had people who look like me sacrifice their lives through literal blood, sweat.
Thank you for your testimony. There are many folks waiting in line, so we're trying to stay close to those time limits. Thank you for your testimony. Welcome. Get close to the mic, introduce yourself, and go ahead.
Howdy, my name is Melody Tremalo, and here we are again talking about shit that doesn't matter, like SB 7 or redistricting. And yet again, I'm asking why we aren't talking...
If you use profanity, you'll be excused. You may continue.
Understood. I'm yet again asking why we aren't talking about the flood or flood relief. I am currently without a car and have been since June. I am here because I am borrowing a car from a friend. On the 5th of July, I woke up to news that the floods were worse than anybody anticipated.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We're approaching the top of the hour. Right now, you're watching public comment as Texas leaders talk about these congressional maps and possible redistricting. So I just want to give you a heads up, because this is a live feed from that meeting. You could hear some foul language, like you just heard, and you heard the state representative there in Texas step in and interject. But I just want to put that out there just in case you may hear a word or two during these proceedings, because it is a impassioned topic and people are again passionate about what's happening there. All right, let's tune back into this public comment there at the Senate meeting in Austin, Texas.
Washington asked for 5 more seats, and y'all are more than happy to give it to them. I've never known Texas to bow down to the federal government, but the majority of y'all on this committee not only entertained that request, y'all are actively rolling out the red carpet for it. So what changed? Y'all decided to fall in line with fascism. Call it what it is. This benefits the bottom line of the Republican Party. This move keeps you in power because you know that if you wait for the proper time to redistrict the next census, it is too long for y'all to retain control of Texas. I worked myself ragged for an entire month. I've watched hearings from victims of the flood from Kerrville to Sandy Creek. They still need help. They need debris cleanup, they need trash hauled away, they need long-term housing, they need funerary services, they need grief counseling and trauma therapy. Quite frankly, they need help. And you insist on redistricting. Our neighbors don't need a new map.
Thank you for your testimony. Yeah, thanks for being here. We want to make sure everybody gets to testify. Ms. Good, pull that microphone close, introduce yourself, and go ahead.
I'm here to say this again, because somehow the urgency still isn't being heard. Our communities are in crisis after flooding. Families are grieving and desperate for help. You know, the reason we had a special session. What are we doing? Redistricting. Again, in the middle of disaster recovery. And let's be honest, this isn't just bad timing. Don't whisper with your neighbor. It is morally wrong and fundamentally unjust Because this redistricting process is not just bureaucratic, it's racist. These maps erase representation on purpose. They silence the voices of the communities who are hurting the most right now. Communities that are overrepresented in need, underrepresented in this building, and clearly not the priority of the moment. It's not leadership, it's abandonment. And it is rooted not only in political greed, but in racial injustice. This state should be mobilizing every resource to rebuild, not redraw. So I'll say it again, louder, clearer. Redistricting can wait. Racist redistricting should be stopped permanently. What cannot wait is flood relief and the people that need it. Do your job. Help the people. All of them.
Ms. Good, thanks for your testimony. When I recognized you, I'd used your name, but I didn't ask you to give us your name just so it's on the record.
Joe Good.
Thank you very much. Senator King, you have the panel.
Thank you. And several people have mentioned the flood or other things that are issues, prominent issues before Texas. We always have prominent issues because we're a big, fast-growing state. As you know, the legislature always is working on multiple issues at a time whenever we're in session. And right now, I think there's 16 items that the governor has put on the call for consideration in this special session.
What's the most important?
Ma'am, please let me finish.
I'm sorry.
That's right. Okay. So the point I was trying to make is, I want to make sure everybody understood, and the public as well, is that without any question, the flood response is the most important issue before this legislative session. That said, we have a committee working feverishly on that, and in fact, you will see bills on the floor of the Senate, and if the Democrats return, on the floor of the House very soon, that try to address that. We've even had an on-site Senate hearing in Kerrville. I guess that was last week, ma'am. Ma'am, we've already had a hearing on site in Kerrville to gather information directly. So that committee is moving forward aggressively. That legislation is prepared and being passed out in the Senate committee. It'll be on the floor before long at all. Hopefully the House Democrats will have returned and we can pass legislation on the flood as well out of the House and get it to where it needs to be. But we're also working on other issues while we're here on reducing property taxes and a number of other matters. And so this committee is assigned specifically the responsibility of redistricting. It is the only issue that we can work on. But the other senators are working on flood and the other matters that have been brought up before. We're very good at multitasking. And that is the way we always operate, multiple issues at a time through our committees. So we're doing our job. The other committees are doing their job. And we'll have flood response bills on the floor of the Senate quite likely next week for consideration. So that is all moving forward. Just wanted to make sure everyone understood the process. So thank you.
Senator, thank you. Senator Miles, you have the panel.
Thanks, sir. Ma'am, I want to thank all of you ladies for testifying. I'm sorry I didn't hear them all. But Ms. Good, did I hear you say racist redistricting?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry.
Thank you.
So, any other questions for our witnesses on this panel? We thank you each for being here. You're excused. We'll continue to call names, and we're calling names multiple times so that folks have an opportunity as they maybe have stepped out for personal matters or maybe in an overflow room. So for the next panel, we're looking for Anthony Gutierrez, Nick Molberg, Lauren Pena, Becky Bullard, Sarah Beck, David Chinkanchan, John McKiernan Gonzalez, Sarah Cinco, Dr. Nancy Seaman. Seaman, thank you. S-E-M-I-N. And Denise Palacios. Denise here. Rocio Fierro Perez. Rocio Fierro Perez.
All right, so you are watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Up next, third event. We are at the top of the hour. It is 1 o'clock, and right now you're watching live the Senate Special Committee on Congressional Redistricting in Texas is meeting. This is in Austin, Texas. You heard public comment earlier. We're expected to hear more public comment, but this all revolves around the Texas legislature, and right now they are at a standstill after House Democrats left the state in a bid to block the Republican effort to redraw congressional districts in the GOP's favor. It's been a big topic. President Trump has pushed for the redistricting effort, and Governor Greg Abbott called for a 30-day special session in which the GOP unveiled proposed maps that could shift as many as 5 U.S. House seats into the Republican column. There's some backstory, some context on that, and again, that public comment continues. On the top right, that is a live look in Hawaii, a volcano.
This is the 30th eruption, like in a series here.
Oh, wow.
Of Kilauea volcano. We've been covering it here, there, and you know, feels like every couple weeks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It has another episode. This is towards the tail end. I should correct the font to say this is towards the tail end, but you could still see. I mean, there's still action happening there.
It is. It's like rinse and repeat.
Yes, it's very active, but there's no, like, it has its own, like, volcano, like, state park, so there's no threat to public safety or anything like that. Of course, this is very, like, average day for Hawaii.
Oh, wow. Well, that is happening on your top right. Bottom right, that is a look at the New York Stock Exchange. You see it's down. Dow is down. At one point, about 300 points now is hovering over 270, 280. So that is a live look. Stocks are down, taking a hit on the first day. I'm not making the correlation, but I just want to point this out as the obvious. But new tariffs are now in effect. And those tariffs went into effect at midnight, and so it's affecting everything from European appliances, Japanese cars, and a slew of goods from China. Do we want to go back to Texas? Okay, let's go back to Texas. This is a live look as public comment continues there at the Texas Legislature. Senate Special Committee is meeting right now regarding congressional districts. Let's take a listen in.
Where civil rights advocates, including the late Representative John Lewis, peacefully marched in support of voting rights. They were met with brutality and violence perpetrated by Alabama state troopers under the orders of Governor George Wallace. As bystanders disturbingly cheered on, the state troopers attacked the protesters with tear gas. And as children, men, and women ran gasping for air, state troopers on horseback chased them down, dragged them to the ground, beat them with billy clubs, nightsticks, and plastic tubes wrapped with barbed wire. That was the heavy cost Americans paid for our voting rights. People gave sweat, tears, blood, even their freedom or their lives to ensure that we were meeting the promise of democracy. Their courage galvanized Americans, forced our country to reckon with the soul-rotting disease of Jim Crow, segregation, poll taxes, literacy tests, and the other injustices aimed at suppressing the vote and voices of Black Americans. This contributed significantly to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Now, by allowing Trump to take over Texas, by refusing to prioritize flood relief and disaster recovery, by dismissing the needs of working Texans and their families, and instead using this special session to advance maps that pack and crack communities of color to silence their voices, you are diminishing the history, struggle, and achievements of the civil rights movement and undermining our democracy. You are pulling and dragging us back into a shameful era of discrimination that we can no longer tolerate or abide by. Members, we need our leaders to put Texas first, not to play political games with our rights and our futures.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. You can begin. Good afternoon. My name is Amy Camp. I'm the Communications Director for Ground Game Texas, and I'm here representing my organization and myself in opposition to SB4 and the proposed redistricting overall. Ground Game Texas works to engage and empower voters across Texas by putting popular policies up to a vote using the tool of municipal ballot initiatives. We've seen over and over in our work that when people feel like their vote counts, they turn out. Our ballot initiatives engage first-time and infrequent voters, including young voters and voters of color, because they know when they vote, their vote will be counted. This redistricting farce aims to do the opposite. It continues the dirty work Texas leadership has done for decades, innovating ways to suppress and erase our voting rights, especially the rights of Black and Latino voters. As Texas goes, so goes the nation, indeed. I've heard loud and clear from Senator King that he fully intends to ignore the testimony offered here today if it contradicts his goal of passing this shameful map with all due speed. I don't understand why someone would choose to devote their one wild and precious life to ruling over an unwilling people by rigging the game. As many witnesses have testified today, we could be devoting the full force of our efforts this special session to preventing another unnecessary tragedy like the recent flood deaths and devastation, much of it due to government negligence and incompetence. Instead, you choose to waste our time with this pathetic demonstration of servility to Donald Trump. If you pass this map, it will certainly make it harder for each Texan's vote to count. But to echo Senator Miles, we will not be cowed by this attempt to silence us. We will continue to organize, educate, and empower voters until we have a Texas that works for all Texans. Thank you.
Appreciate your testimony. Ms. Pena.
Hi, my name is Lauren Pena. I live in one of the first housing projects ever implemented in the United States. It just went through gentrification. I'm actually walking a distance across from the Capitol here. My community's civil rights are being severely violated, so much so that I am the pro se litigant for a class action lawsuit against the City of Austin and the Housing Authority of the City of Austin. I want to read 5 quotes that I took today from people speaking up here. Your vote is your weapon. We don't have the representation we deserve to have. Our taxpayer funds are being wastefully mismanaged. People of color finally have the right to vote. The effects have gone on for years. Erase representation on purpose. Silence their voices when we need them the most. These were all said by Democrats being represented by Democrats. So that's why I am a conservative running for United States Congress, living inside federal housing projects, because the gentrification of public housing is detrimental for society. And I'm sick and tired of hearing paid lobbyists sit up here and tell you how they need to vote when they don't know what it's like to live in the brown and black communities. I live there right now. Right now, I urge all of you to accept my request to let's go on a field trip. Let's go around to the projects here in Austin, Texas. I can probably guarantee your safety, no problem. We can do it in groups, however you want to do it. I'd like to do it with the senators and the House of Representatives. Why don't you guys come see how these policies that you have made, implemented, and severely mismanaged on the Democrat side, because again, these are all Democrat policies that are harming my community. Now, as far as this bill, I am completely all in for it. You know why? Because either way, it doesn't matter if I'm running in 37 or 35. I have so many eligible non-voters that haven't voted in 40 years that are gonna vote for me. So you guys are screwed, okay? I'm gonna take this seat. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, I would like to say that this new map is gonna encompass all the housing projects all around the city of Austin. So that means I get to go into every brown and black community that is disproportionately affected, and they're gonna start voting for the first time in 40 years. Thank you.
Hey, members, any questions? Senator King.
Oh, thank you. And it's not specifically for the panel, so if this more just to help me. I really appreciate all the testimony we've had this morning. And I know we've got quite a few people left to testify. But it would help all of us, I think. Most of the testimony, in fact, all of the testimony this morning has been very much in generalities. If you have a specific concern about a specific district that you live in or you're aware of, you believe it does something wrong, either in terms of splitting a community of interest or dividing a population or something else, it would help a lot more if I had specifics and you said, hey, I live in District 23, and when you moved this in to this neighborhood or this county, it had the following impact, and we can look and respond to those type of things. But although I appreciate your testimony and I understand the generalities, where you can give specific testimony about districts, that's something we can work with a lot more. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator King. Members,
Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Senator Miles.
Mr. Chairman, Senator King, does that apply to people on the board, on the panel as well? Can I give you my information, how it's affecting my district, and you're looking to changing it? The same offer you just made to the witnesses.
So
it doesn't matter what district I'm in. This is a power grab.
We're not recognized at this time, but thank you very much for this panel, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Senator Miles,
thank you, ma'am.
Continue your point.
My question is, the same offer you just made to the witnesses, Senator King, does that apply to us as well?
So yes, of course, but I assume in your case that you would be preparing floor amendments or committee amendments with specific recommended changes for the committee to consider or for the Senate as a whole to consider. And
I would love to.
And so, yes, I think that's
I would love
the right
to
way
provide
to
something
do
for the
that.
committee to consider.
And I'd also say that, look, you're an exceptionally good person to work with, and I think we've always had a good working relationship. But my point was that if the witnesses want to testify saying, hey, here's what I would like changed in this bill, then the specifics help, and we can say, okay, I agree that created a problem, or I don't agree. But for the members, I think for us, it's probably more so preparing committee or floor amendments with recommended changes and all the stuff that goes with that. So I'm happy to consider anything. But at the end of the day, it's the committee members all will have to vote on this map coming out of this committee, whether it does or not. When it gets to the floor, any amendments that are proposed, all the members of the Senate will vote on that, on whether or not those amendments are adopted or not, and whether or not ultimately the map passes out. And so, yes, I'm happy to work with anybody.
Yeah, I thought my recollection is correct. I thought we were told as committee members not to provide any amendments.
No, and I'm sorry if there was any confusion, but I mentioned that again at yesterday's hearing. I walked through the amendment process for the floor, and then, of course, the amendment process for the committee had been communicated earlier. And then, of course, it always follows the rules that were in the SR 5 that we all passed to guide this committee. So there, obviously, even as chair, I don't have the authority to tell somebody they can't bring an amendment.
Okay.
And I'm sorry if there was confusion on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Any other questions or comments? We'll excuse this panel. Appreciate your testimony. And at this time, the chair will call Nick Malberg, Anthony Gutierrez, Becky Bullard, and Sarah Beck. We'll call John McKiernan Gonzalez. Is John still here with us? We'll give him a minute to come over if he is in an overflow room. Sarah Cinco. Denise Palacios. Rocio Fierro Perez. Daniela Silva.
Anthony Gutierrez will not be testifying today, sir.
Thank you for letting me know. We'll ask the clerk to please make adjustments to the witness list that Mr. Gutierrez has exited. We'll begin with you.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Denise Palacios.
Don't be nervous at all.
No.
You all, as witnesses, are doing outstanding jobs, and we really appreciate your time here today, and we're eager to hear from you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Denise Palacios, and I'm the Texas State Lead for Climate Cabinet, testifying against the revised redistricting map. Chairman, having the authority to do something does not make it morally correct or fair.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Right now, you're watching live at a Senate Special Committee hearing that's going on. Talking about redistricting congressional maps there. There's public comment that's been happening. This has been going on for a while now. This is in Austin, Texas. We want to step away from that and get to some breaking news here into our newsroom. Make sure I get it right. All right. So here's what we're following. A middle school coach is charged in crimes against children. There's an investigation going on. Here's a look at the man that's arrested. So here's what CMPD has sent to us. So here's what I'm reading. So detectives with CMPD have arrested and charged a Kennedy Middle School football coach, Shamir Kavan Leroy Sims, 22 years old, in a crimes against children investigation. On Wednesday, August 6, CMPD's Violent Criminal Apprehension Team located and arrested Sims. Sims was later transferred to the custody of the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. He is charged with 1 count of indecent liberties with a student. Sims was previously employed at Alexander Graham Middle School, followed by Kennedy Middle School. The investigation into this case is active and ongoing. And as more information continues to come in to our newsroom, we will be sure to share that with you here. But again, this is a man that was arrested by police. Shamir Kavan Leroy Sims, 22 years old, charged with crimes against children investigation, was arrested yesterday regarding this investigation. Worked at Alexander Graham Middle School, followed by Kennedy Middle School. He was a football coach at Kennedy Middle School. Am I missing anything else, you guys? I'm scrolling down here. Okay. But this is what we have into our newsroom. Again, actually, let me read you a statement from CMS. I believe this was sent out to families. So here's what the statement says. Good afternoon, Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools families. We are reaching out to inform you that Shamir Sims, a behavior management technician and football coach, has been arrested. We take this matter very seriously. Shamir Sims has been removed from his duties, suspended with pay, and will no longer be working at any school in the district effective immediately pending the results of the investigation. Shamir Sims served as a BMT floater at the following schools. And this is, it lists several schools. I'll go ahead and read them off. This is Alexander Graham Middle School, James Martin Middle School, J.M. Alexander Middle School, Walter G. Byer School, Southwest Middle School, West Charlotte High School. And Shamir Sims also served as a football coach, as we mentioned before, at Kennedy Middle School. CMS goes on to say, please understand we cannot discuss confidential personnel information. This matter is being investigated by law enforcement. Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools is committed to the safety, security, and well-being of all students and staff in the classroom in extracurricular activities as well as sports. So that is a statement that CMS has sent out to parents. And again, we are following this story. Let me see if there is... we're following this story, and again, as more information comes into our newsroom, and I'm going through our chats in real time just to check to see if I missed anything. It doesn't appear that I missed anything on this, but we will be sure to update you on this breaking story. All right, let's send it back now to Texas, where public comment continues. As I mentioned before, Texas legislator, they're at a standstill after House Democrats left the state in a bid to block the Republican effort to redraw congressional districts in the GOP's favor. Again, the Senate committee is talking about it. Public comment is underway. Let's take a listen into more of this public comment that's happening right now.
My name is Daniela Silva. I'm the Austin Policy Coordinator at Workers' Defense Action Fund, and I'm strongly against this bill drawn up by unpopular Trump and his billionaire cronies. If a special session must be called, Texas want you to focus solely on helping us recover from a devastating flood and preparing for future natural disasters that are a matter of when, not if, they happen next. Instead, Abbott is using the special session to sell the people of Texas over to unpopular Trump's big business friends that use their money to pull the strings in D.C. Want to multitask? Why don't you focus on the real problems Texans face? Big banks and corporations are buying up homes so that regular families can no longer afford to become homeowners. Schools and hospitals are closing across rural communities. Roads and bridges are crumbling. Workers are having their wages stolen at unprecedented rates. Parents can't afford childcare. These are the problems our state elected officials should be addressing. If you're a Texan who faces any of these challenges, I know I am, Abbott and unpopular Trump do not care about us. If they did, they would make the lives of working class Americans better, just a little bit easier to live a decent life. But instead, they're wasting your taxpayer dollars to call a special session to draw new maps that make sure the most power-hungry politicians never have to give up their seats, to continue their plan to completely destroy democracy. They're shaping a country where the only voices heard across all levels of government are the voices of the uber wealthy. For those who fear big government, I hate to break it to you. This is as big as it's ever been, and it's at its very worst. Abbott and unpopular Trump are using this special legislative session to grab power by taking away our freedoms and avoiding accountability. This is part of a bigger plan. Their goal is to tell us how we live and who gets to participate in shaping their own state and country. It's not about freedom, it's about control. Texas Democrats and any Republicans with any sliver of a spine left, you have to break quorum and eventually vote no. This is a time for courage. This is a time to honor your duty to the Constitution and the people of Texas. This is a time to change the course of history and give us a fighting chance to save democracy.
Members, any questions? Thank you. We'll excuse this panel. Appreciate your time and testimony today. At this time, the committee will stand at ease for 5 minutes for a brief break and for the members to be able to respond to personal emails or calls or family, and we'll come back in 5 minutes to resume the hearing. Don't go anywhere. Yes.
All right, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We are approaching the bottom of the hour, 1:23. Thank you for staying with us. It looks like they're taking a break here of this Senate Special Committee on congressional redistricting that's happening in Austin. We've heard public comment. They've been meeting at this point for hours. Again, a hot topic, not only within the state of Texas, but also across the country. So let's come back home. We want to check in with weather. I tried to thaw out earlier. It did not work. It's cold. It's a little cold in the studio. But I tried to go out in between shows, in between the 9 and 11 and the 12:30. It did not work. Still a little cold. It still feels like fall outside. But don't worry, Carlene Bragg. The temperatures are rising, and summer is making a comeback. She's clapping right now. I don't know if you can hear. Let's check in with meteorologist Majestic Storm for our forecast.
We will eventually get back to summertime weather.
Eventually, yes. I mean, even this weekend, I'm looking forward to it. A nice improvement. But first things first, there's a live camera view of outside. It's another dreary day out there. We do have mainly overcast conditions. Temperatures still on the cooler side, especially for an August forecast. And a few stray showers are still popping up. Now, this weekend, if you're starting to make some plans, I think we will have a little bit of sunshine. Temperatures rise back into the 80s. And then next week, if you've been missing that heat and humidity, maybe that sunshine as well. Next week, it'll actually feel like what it should for this time of the year. Let's get to it. Here's our satellite and radar. Still seeing a whole lot of cloud coverage out there, and you can still see some rain streaming in for parts of our viewing area. Now, not everyone, and it's kind of a mix of really light rain, possibly some mist or drizzle out there. You can see it even as we switch it over to our Doppler radar. And this is actually the area that has received the most amount of rain this morning. A lot of us have just been kind of dry and overcast, maybe just that misty conditions that we've been waking up to. That's what most of us have seen, but really that's where we have seen some accumulating rain, especially out there towards Raleigh. As we're looking at the rest of the day today, still more clouds and sunshine. Now, if we get lucky, which there is a good opportunity for that, maybe a little bit of peaks of sunshine later on in the late afternoon, early evening. 70s today, and then getting a little warmer as we're heading into tomorrow. Yesterday was better than the day before, and today hopefully gets better than where we were yesterday. We topped off at 74 degrees for our forecasted high, and today we're forecasting 77 for the Charlotte metro area. Now remember, we should be into the low end of the 90s, so we're still really far from where we should be for this time of the year. We have some foggy conditions out there across the mountain locations. Temperatures into the lower end of the 70s. 70 out there towards Banner Elk, 69 for Blowing Rock as we head towards the foothills, mainly mid to upper 70s today. For your forecasted high out there in Lenore, 78 degrees, 76 for Statesville, and everyone in Gastonia today, let's plan for 77 for you, Rock Hill, and Lancaster. So as we head throughout the day today, let's plan for 70s. But you can see by tomorrow, we finally get the return of some 80-degree temperatures, much the same as we're heading towards a weekend, but we're on this gradual warming trend. So you can see after this weekend and even into next week, that's when it starts to become a little hotter, I would say. By the middle to end of next week, temperatures start to spike back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. And the Climate Prediction Center is also showing a surge of warmer air really taking over the south again, meaning that the possibility of us seeing the return of above average temperatures, especially between August 14th and 20th, it looks like it's going to be likely. So again, I know many of you like the cool down, you like the cooler temperatures. If that's you, I'm saying just enjoy it. Enjoy today. It's just kind of a gloomy one, and tomorrow again going to stay relatively nice, kind of a middle ground with 80s returning. As far as the precipitation goes, if you want to go to the pool, if you want to go to the lake this weekend, now it's not going to be perfect, but 80s, that's all right. Small chances for a pop-up shower possible. And then especially on Monday, we'll see some more rain. Now this is what Futurecast could look like as we're heading into that 6 o'clock time frame. Maybe you're driving home from work or just into the later half of the day. Still cloudy. Could still see a stray shower or two. And then again, as we're heading into our Friday, more sunshine. So looking forward to that. There's our 3-day forecast. 80-degree temperatures are on the way. Not so much today, but I do think by tomorrow we'll hit 80 degrees. And then there you go, Ben. This weekend, not looking bad whatsoever. Good mix of sun and clouds, 83 for a high on Saturday, and then getting warmer by about Wednesday, upper 80s and low 90s will return.
That is a look at the forecast. A perfect day. If you see that icon, that Panthers icon, that means Panthers' first preseason game is tomorrow. And Carlene is wearing her Panthers blazer. I just want to point that out. I don't know if that was intended, but that is the case.
I have Sir Minty on now.
Yeah, Charlotte FC today.
Charlotte FC is tonight.
And they wear the colors of the Panthers.
They do.
You made that easy.
I just love Sir Minty. You know I'm a mascot fan. I love the mascot.
What about Sir Purr?
Love Sir Purr.
Okay.
Charlotte's got great mascot lineups.
Best mascots.
Hugo the Hornet.
Hugo the Hornet.
You've got Sir Minty, Sir Purr. You've got Lugnut at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
You've got Homer with the Knights.
Yeah.
Chubby with the Checkers. You've got Gastonia, Ghost Peppers. They have
Pepe. Yeah.
And then they have Boomer at the Cannonballers.
This is very impressive.
This is pretty.
If you open up Carlene's phone and look at her contacts, these are her contacts.
I was like, is she going to keep going? Like,
oh, yeah.
I'm pretty impressed. Look.
I love mascots, everybody.
Also impressive, the Carolina Panthers are in training camp. Some buzz there during training camp. I'm not just saying this because I'm making it up. I'm reading a lot of stuff. We're hearing the reports from Carboni, from Danielle Stein. Jeb, you're here. Come on, Jeb. Give me an analysis.
You know, I've been talking with Nick and Danielle very closely. I've been following a lot of the Charlotte sports journalists. I think if this training camp is any indication, there is so much to be excited about for this team. I think, honestly, there is a chance that Carolina has one of the best receiver rooms in the NFL. Certainly one of the best young receiver rooms. I think if Bryce Young can be the key to unlock the talent lining up on the line of scrimmage, they might be one of the best receiver rooms, certainly in the NFC South, second to the Tampa Bay Bucks, who might be they have a crazy, crazy receiver room.
There's a guy in the receiver room that not a lot of folks are talking about, Jalen Coker. He had a pretty decent end of the season last year. He is good, and he made some big catches. He's an undrafted guy, came to Carolina in 2024, really stood out, had his own little cheer section, fan base within Panther Nation. Danielle Stein got a chance to catch up with young Jalen Coker. Let's take a listen into their interview.
Dave was saying, for you specifically, you come in with an advantage over some in your room because you have that NFL experience. How do you feel prepared coming into year 2 in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, definitely being out there my rookie year is definitely a blessing. I'm so grateful for that. And yeah, I feel like the game slowed down a little bit for me. Of course, I still have a lot of work to do, but definitely I feel like I'm more comfortable and I'm kind of coming into my own a little bit.
He was also saying how during your offseason it looks like you took a big step in terms of body comp and other kind of training. What did you kind of hone in on during this offseason to get to a point where you're competing now in this wide receiver room?
Yeah, I think a big thing was just limit the soft tissue stuff. That kind of, hindered me a little bit coming out of college and then a little bit in my rookie year. So kind of trying to nip that in the bud so it doesn't come back this year. And yeah, overall, just kind of lose a little bit of weight, trying to stay a little more lean, just kind of be able to move a little bit more freely.
Being in this wide receiver room that's pretty deep right now, does that excite you, knowing that there's competition out there and that you have to really kind of claim your stake in it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's just going to force everyone to work a little bit harder, and it's going to bring out everyone's best, and that's exactly what, Coach preaches. So, if we go out every day and we've got, the guy next to you who's going to win his rep and the guy on the other side is going to win his rep, it just makes you want to win yours as well.
How does the relationship with you and Bryce develop from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think just constant communication. I spent a little bit of time with him over the offseason too, so just kind of, not even like away from football, just kind of from a man-to-man perspective. And just, whenever we're out there, just whatever he sees, I like to come back and ask him stuff, if he sees a certain way, if he wants me to run something a certain way, so just kind of having that communication.
I just wanted to hold that shot of Bryce up a little bit longer, but that's just me. We'll have more of the Panthers coming up. Again, their first preseason game against the Cleveland Browns is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. All right, so let's shift gears. We want to stay here in Charlotte. Let's talk about Uptown. So Uptown, we've reported in the past, has struggled from a business standpoint to bounce back, especially after the pandemic. So WCNC Charlotte's Walker Lawson is following this story for us. Walker, I laid it out there. Businesses have struggled since the pandemic. I mean, we're 5 years removed from 2020 when a lot of things shut down. What is the state of Uptown when it comes to business there now?
Yeah, well, we have heard, obviously, in the last couple of weeks that 2 businesses have closed in Uptown. Bella Ciao is one, and then Essex will be closing in the coming weeks. So when you hear this news of 2 businesses closing in Uptown, and there have been some closing in other places, I know Miles Harris touched on one earlier this week, and we know that Resident Culture in South End will be closing their doors. It kind of alarms people to hear, oh gosh, what's happening? There's a lot of businesses closing, but we were able to speak with Charlotte City Partners today, and they kind of assured us that this is the way things go. So every couple of years, the food industry can be really hard to keep alive your business, and you kind of have to reinvent yourself every couple of years. This may not pertain to every single business that we discuss in our story today, but they said it is something that you do face challenges with, and they said that they are seeing more businesses coming to Charlotte. So they do not see the downward trend that maybe we are seeing in these couple of weeks because we've heard of a couple closures.
Walker, did they speak to like this as far as what Uptown looks like now compared to it did like 5 years ago? The type of businesses that are coming in, are they the same type of businesses or are they different? Does it look different now?
Yeah, so they didn't speak directly to that. They more so just talked a little bit about the last year to this year, kind of where we stand right now with the businesses that are coming in. But of course, some of the businesses that I spoke to, they did attribute some changes in Uptown, some of that with parking changes. There has been the meter parking that's been enforced. So now it's metered every 2 hours up until 10 p.m. They're also enforcing that on the weekends. Some people also attributed the epicenter being quieter and seeing less foot traffic in the area. So again, those are things that these businesses have attributed, but I also interviewed people in Uptown that work in Uptown and said, they're seeing as much foot traffic right now in Uptown as they did pre-pandemic.
Definitely an interesting story there, Walker. Thank you for your time. Before I let you go, when can folks, I usually have it up, when can folks catch your story this evening?
You almost caught me off guard there for a second. 6:15. 6:15.
All right, Walker. Thank you for your time. I promise I'm not going to catch you off guard again, man.
I'm glad I had it in the back of my head somewhere.
I got you, man. All right, be safe out there. We'll check in with you later. Yeah, definitely an interesting story there in Uptown. I was actually in the well, it's not called the epicenter now, but the Queen City quarter. I mean, that's what it's called now, but epicenter is what it's known by.
Old habits break hard.
It is, and it's a lot. I think about in different stages when it comes to the epicenter, or what was formerly known as the epicenter. I remember you think about like 2016, how lively it was, and then I fast forward to now. Wasn't as granted, I went in the morning, but I did see there were not as many businesses open. That's just from the eyeball test and me looking around. But Charlotte's a great place. Uptown's a great place. So you always, as somebody who lives here in Charlotte, we're journalists, but we also are residents here. We want to see our community bounce back in a good way. All right, so let's head now to Washington, D.C. There was a press conference right before we got on the stream regarding the shooting. Do we have any background? I don't have my notes.
Yes.
Over. Yeah.
We might remember this shooting as the two individuals who were shot outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., Nick.
Okay.
And what we're going to hear is information about the indictment of the suspect in that case.
Gotcha.
We can go there now.
First of all, I think you know who I am. I'm Janine Ferris-Piro. I am now the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. And on May 22nd, I stood at this very podium to announce the initial charging of Elias Rodriguez, 31 years old, of Chicago, Illinois, to a community that was reeling because of one person's actions. Today, we in the United States Attorney's Office continue our journey to seek justice for not only 2, but 4 victims of this horrific crime, which has had enormous consequences and repercussions, not just in the district, but nationwide and worldwide. Not only affecting these victims and their families, but opening old wounds and re-victimizing victims of past anti-Semitism. Now, a few facts. On May 20 of 2025, Elias Rodriguez traveled from Chicago, Illinois, to Washington, D.C., and brought with him a 9mm semi-automatic weapon. While on the plane, he traveled across multiple state lines, called an explication on his iPhone. His explication made clear his purpose in committing these crimes that I'm about to read to you was to demonstrate his hatred for the people of Israel. The next day, on the afternoon of May 21, he purchased a ticket to attend a young diplomat's reception sponsored by the American Jewish Committee at the Capitol Jewish Museum, located just 2 blocks from here on 3rd Street in Northwest D.C. Now, the American Jewish Committee, of course, supports Israel and its right to exist in peace and security. That very same night, he watched as people left the reception. When he saw the 4 victims in this case, all of whom were from the Israeli embassy, he crossed the street he opened fire, killing first Yaron Lashinsky, then killing Sarah Milgram, and when firing these fatal shots, he yelled, "Free Palestine." After he killed Yaron and Sarah, he entered the Capitol Jewish Museum, pulled out a red keffiyeh, and yelled, "I did it for Palestine," after which he was arrested. Now, a D.C. grand jury has charged in this indictment 2 hate crimes, alleging that he murdered Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram because of his bias against the people of Israel. He demonstrated this hatred through his words, "death to Israel," and his violent actions against Yaron and Sarah and their co-workers from the Israeli embassy. He also posted one of his postings on social media, "Please, please, please, God, please, vaporize every Israeli." And now to the charges. A grand jury in the District of Columbia has indicted Elias Rodriguez in a 9-count indictment with the following crimes. Count 1, murder of a foreign official under 18 U.S.C. 1116 for the murder of 30-year-old Yaron Lashinsky, a foreign official employed by the government of Israel. Counts 2 and 3 are hate crimes resulting in death under 18 U.S.C. 249, where the defendant crossed state lines, willfully caused bodily injury to Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram because of actual as well as perceived national origin, which resulted in both of their deaths. Counts 4 and 5. The discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence causing the death of a person through the use of a firearm. The defendant knowingly used, carried, and discharged a firearm during and in relation to a crime of violence, and with malice aforethought, he did unlawfully kill Yaron and Sarah with a firearm. Counts 6 and 7, first-degree murder while armed. Under the defendant Rodriguez, with deliberate and premeditated malice, killed Yaron and Sarah by shooting each with a firearm, thereby causing injuries from which each died. Counts 8 and 9, assault with intent to kill while armed with a firearm. He assaulted CS and AT, those are initials, with intent to kill a person. Attached to this indictment are further findings of the grand jury. It's designated as a notice of special findings under 18 U.S.C. 3591 and 92. This begins the statutory process and whether to seek the death penalty. This is a weighty decision. It takes time. There will be a rigorous process, after which the capital case section in the Attorney General's office will advise the Attorney General, and the Attorney General herself will make a decision regarding whether or not this office will seek death against Elias Rodriguez. In that regard, I think it's important to identify a specific special finding, and I direct your attention to, I believe it's paragraph 28. Rodriguez committed an offense against Sarah Milgram in an especially heinous and cruel and depraved manner, in that it involved serious physical abuse to Sarah Milgram, who was particularly vulnerable due to infirmity. Now, let me close by saying that prior to speaking to you today, I spoke with the parents of Yaron Lashinsky as well as Sarah Milgram. The parents of Yaron are in Israel. Sarah's parents are in the United States. These are people who are broken because of one man's actions. These are people who should have been in-laws, but because of one man's action, they will never be able to celebrate a marriage that was intended or the grandchildren that would have resulted. The families want to thank the prosecutors in my office. They want to thank the FBI, the MPD, and all of the people in the Attorney General's office who have worked on this case, and they wanted me to send that message. And now I want to make something perfectly clear. Violence against anyone in this district will not be tolerated, especially violence which has hate at its core and is the genesis of violence. The president put me here to do a job, to clean up the district, to make sure that crime doesn't overshadow this phenomenal city, our nation's capital. And I have throughout my career fought anti-Semitism for 32 years as a prosecutor and a judge. I do so. I fight hate crimes with a vengeance. So don't even think about targeting people in this.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. It is 1:45. We are approaching the top of the hour right there. You're watching a press conference from earlier. This is U.S. Attorney, newly appointed U.S. Attorney, I should say, for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, providing an update on the fatal shooting that happened this past spring outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum there in D.C. Let's step away from that. We want to come back home. We want to talk about a story that we've been following for a couple of weeks now, and a man that we have celebrated, we remembered here on WCNC Charlotte. We're talking about the renowned civil rights attorney James Ferguson II. He died back on July 21st at the age of 82. And he's worn so many hats in his lifetime. You see him right there on your screen. Pioneering lawyer, mentor, and social justice advocate, fighting for decades for equality, and has left a huge impact in North Carolina and beyond. Again, he passed away on July 21st. There was a celebration of life today, so the community can honor Mr. Ferguson. WCNC Charlotte's Miles Harris was there at the celebration of life. He's checking in with us. So Miles, you were there. What was it? What was the mood? What was the tone? And what was said inside to honor Mr. Ferguson?
Yeah, Nick, we're actually outside of Club Nile, where another public open memorial service is set to take place around 4 o'clock today. But we did get a chance to talk to some of the people outside of the funeral service that was taking place at the Park Church, which was really like 5 or 10 minutes away from here. But really just a mix of emotions from a lot of people out there, obviously wanting to honor and celebrate the life and legacy of James Ferguson II, but also just getting a chance to hear from people talk about how he impacted their life, whether directly or indirectly. Just like you said, he had wore so many hats during his time here, especially not just in Charlotte, but throughout North Carolina. And I really can recall a time we got a chance to talk to one of the judges out there, Judge Aretha Blake, who was talking about the impact that she saw and witnessed him make inside the courtrooms, but also his impact that's being made even for future generations. She has a daughter that's getting ready to start college next week, but mentions that, that might not have happened or would look differently had it not been for the work and dedication that James Ferguson had made when it came to whether desegregating those schools at CMS back in the day, or even talking about just any of his other trials or runs or practices that he had done in the courtroom and even in our community. Truly a difference maker, and we are just really getting a chance to really tell the stories and impact that he has made in our community, Nick.
Yeah, a big impact here on the Charlotte community, Miles. And you can catch Miles at 4 and 6 o'clock with more on this celebration of life of Mr. James Ferguson, again, a pioneer here in our area. Miles, thank you for your time, man. All right, so that is Miles Harris. You can catch him again at 4 and 6 o'clock with more from how the Charlotte community is honoring the life of James Ferguson. All right, let's go back now to D.C. We were playing this, and this was from earlier, a press conference. D.C. U.S. District Attorney out of D.C., Jeanine Pirro, giving updates on that fatal shooting from this past spring outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum. Let's take you back now to that press conference from earlier.
certify any hate crime charges at the federal level in the United States. And we did that in this case with alacrity. The Civil Rights Division remains unwavering in the same commitment that you just heard from Judge Janine. Namely, there will be a zero-tolerance policy in this district and in these United States for any hate-motivated violence, including in this case on the basis of actual and/or perceived national origin. The community in question has been reeling from a stream of violence that has been occurring in these United States for almost 2 years now. To those who seek to inflict further pain and suffering on Israeli communities, we will use every legal tool at our disposal to hold them accountable for these actions and deter future actions. The Civil Rights Division is committed to ensuring that every community in these United States is safe from violence, intimidation, and discrimination, as in this case. No one in America should fear for their life because of their faith, religion, ethnicity, or national origin. This indictment reflects our ongoing commitment to hold these criminals accountable, and we will continue to relentlessly pursue justice for Yaron and Sarah, their families, and their communities. I hope this beginning of this process brings some comfort to the many people in this community who have approached the Department of Justice and expressed their deep concern for their safety. I think no one can claim that this is not a serious problem here in our district right now, and it is embarrassing as an American to see that. Next, I'm going to introduce FBI District of Columbia Field Office Criminal Division Special Agent in Charge, Reed Davis.
Thank you, Judge Pirro. Thank you, AG Dillon. Good morning. My name is Reed Davis. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for the Washington Field Office Criminal Division. Today's announcement is a major step forward in our partners in the FBI's efforts to seek justice for the victims and the families of the horrific act at the Capitol Jewish Museum on May 21st. Since that tragic night, our FBI and DOJ victim specialists have forged relationships with the surviving victims and the families of the young couple who were ruthlessly murdered. They have maintained close contact and kept them apprised of significant investigative milestones in the case, and these victim specialists will remain in contact with the families until justice is served. Investigation to date indicates that the subject acted alone with the intent to commit a violent act in the District of Columbia. Based on his writings and communications, we believe he was a lone wolf actor, motivated by anti-Zionist and pro-Palestine ideology, with the goal of conducting a mass shooting to call attention to his political agenda. We wouldn't be at this stage without the significant support of our partners on the Washington Field Office Joint Terrorism Task Force, including the Metropolitan Police Department, the Diplomatic Security Service, the U.S. Capitol Police, and many others who have left no stone unturned in this investigation. The FBI field offices across the country also provided vital support, especially our Chicago field office, which conducted numerous interviews. In addition, we are extremely grateful to the members of the D.C. community who shared video footage of the subject's movements. We continue to seek information from the public relevant to this case and others, as we see the spread of ideology-motivated violence and mass casualty events across the nation. Taking violent action in support of one's political or personal beliefs is abhorrent, it's unacceptable, and the FBI will rigorously investigate and aggressively pursue those who choose to do so. Our work is not done. This indictment is the next step towards justice, and we'll continue to support the prosecution of the subject through our investigation. And now more than ever, we need the public to be vigilant and report to law enforcement any concerns they may have of an individual who may be considering violent actions. Thank you, and now I'd like to turn it over to MPD Assistant Chief Rami Kyle.
Good morning. I'm Assistant Chief Rami Kyle of the Investigative Services Bureau at the Metropolitan Police Department. Since our officers apprehended Elias Rodriguez and recovered the murder weapon moments after the shooting, our homicide detectives have tirelessly pursued justice. MPD has a solemn obligation of investigating every homicide occurring in the District of Columbia, a duty we do not take lightly. Our detectives work closely with our partners at the FBI Washington Field Office. As this case progressed and as the investigation traveled outside of our city and outside of our jurisdiction, the charges unveiled here this morning underscore our collective commitment to ensuring Rodriguez faces the maximum punishment possible. Calling this a shooting alone doesn't begin to describe the vicious and hateful attack. Rodriguez traveled halfway across the country, came to our city with the intent to murder people simply because of who they are, what they believed, and where they came from. Hate has no place in our community. We continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with all those impacted by the loss of Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram. MPD strongly supports the religious community here in Washington, D.C. We have maintained a heightened presence at religious institutions, and we are in regular contact with leaders of all faiths and work to safeguard our houses of worship. As always, we remind our community to remain vigilant and immediately report any suspicious activity. I want to commend the dozens of MPD officers and fellow first responders that rushed to the Capitol Jewish Museum that night. These brave men and women, they did not know the nature of the threat they were running toward and acted swiftly to take this suspect into custody. I want to thank our partners here at the United States Attorney's Office and the FBI Washington Field Office for their commitment to pursuing justice. Every agency involved in this investigation has worked together seamlessly from the very beginning. And lastly, I want to express our gratitude to our local community for providing tips and video that helped our detectives with this case. I also want to thank our community for supporting our Jewish community in the face of this awful tragedy. Thank you, and I'll now turn it back to Judge Pirro.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions?
Could you clarify as far as the death penalty is concerned? I'm unclear. Are you recommending to the Attorney General that the DOJ go ahead with this death penalty designation? Or is this something that you're saying flat out that you're seeking the death penalty?
Okay. Thank you for the question. And what the special findings attached to the indictment, and if you get a copy of the indictment, you'll find it, is an indication that there is a process that we are considering right now. And the Department of Justice has a very rigorous internal process for determining and reviewing cases to determine whether the death penalty is appropriate. The capital case section is responsible for conducting the review. The review includes an examination of all the evidence and of the charges. The defendant is allowed to submit information for consideration by the capital case section as well, which is one of the reasons that we attach these special findings. Once this review is completed, it is then that the Attorney General will determine whether or not to authorize my office to seek death. So the simple question, or the simple answer to your important question is, we are starting the process. We've made no decision yet. Yes, sir.
Judge Pirro, go ahead, sir.
There's been reporting, in addition, after an attack earlier this week on a Trump administration DOJ official, that the Trump administration was making plans to increase federal law enforcement throughout the city. Can you confirm if that's accurate and what your office is aware of?
You know, my understanding is that both the Trump administration as well as the Metropolitan Police Department are looking to increase law enforcement efforts because of the violence we're seeing across this country, across this city. I'm not sure specifically what you're referring to, but we just have too much crime.
I just want to ask you.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's a new FBI report that says that anti-Semitic crimes have gone up 70%. This is the highest number against any religious group. Given your announcement today, do you envision any enhanced prosecution efforts, deterrence efforts? Give us some context about that.
Look, I think your question is an important one, and it makes it clear that we have a problem with anti-Semitism in this country, and the statistics bear that out. And I think now more than ever, we are seeing increased numbers. So what does that mean? If what it means, if you can get from my tone, we're going to be very aggressive. You heard from the FBI, the MPD. We're going to look for these cases. We're going to prosecute these cases to the full force of the law. It's a problem, and we're not going to tolerate it. Anti-Semitism has historically been one of the biggest scabs in the world that keeps getting picked on and picked at. So from my perspective, I will go forward with every case with vengeance.
Judge Beer, do you support a federal takeover of Washington, D.C., as the president has suggested?
Yeah, that is a decision for the president. And I think that what the president was saying is that we're seeing far too much crime being committed by young people, 14, 15, 17 years old, that I can't get my hands on. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures, but, young people are coddled. And they don't need to be coddled anymore. They need to be held accountable. They shouldn't be going to arts and crafts in family court. They need to understand that enough is enough, and that the D.C. Council has to repeal some of these absurd ordinances and laws that they've had passed that do nothing to protect the people of this city and of this district. And I will reference a case that I wrote an op-ed piece on that I've been talking about for weeks. A young person gets on a bus with an illegal gun. There is a family on the bus. He makes a decision to shoot someone in the chest. To me, that's intent to kill. But for the grace of God, that individual did not die. Now, he's got a gun. It's illegal. He used the gun. Guess what the sentence was? I got a conviction. The sentence was probation. We can't have that. And by the way, he wasn't a kid. He was 19. These are the rules of the D.C. Council. They've got to be changed. We've got to have the ability to let young people know that they're going to be accountable. And if you look at some of these pictures of these kids being beaten by crews and bloodied up, and you want to tell me that, it's only a kid who did it, no. Take a look at the bloodied up face and body, and you'll know that it's more than little kids doing this kind of thing.
Are you trying to get your office to take over what Brian Schwab is doing? Do you want to take over juvenile justice here in the city?
I'm not trying to do anything vis-a-vis Brian Schwab. All I want to do is clean up D.C. That's why the president put me here. And youth crime is on the rise. In the last 4 years, we've had 150,000 cases of youth violence, okay? 4 years ago. Now it's close to 500,000 cases of youth violence. We've got D.C. as one of the highest murder rates in the country. So we can talk about crime going down, but going down from where? So, I mean, this is something that is a whole other issue. Today is about this indictment and making sure that if you intend to commit a crime of anti-Semitism or hate, we're coming for you.
Judge, you spoke to Yaron and Sarah's parents. Have they taken a position on whether they want the Justice Department to seek the death penalty? And separately, Steve Jensen was supposed to be up there alongside you announcing this today, but he's been fired. Do you have any explanation why?
Okay. I'm going to talk about Sarah and Yaron's parents. I spoke to them, and I told them that the process is beginning, that they will have an opportunity and a right to put their input into what decision is ultimately made. Okay, and I'm not going to talk about politics today. I'm talking about crime, and I'm talking about hate crimes, and that's the extent of it. Okay.
So, reporter was asking the question. There's word that there are going to be more federal law enforcement, including perhaps National Guard, on the streets of D.C. today and tomorrow as a result of some of this recent violence. What is your reaction, or could Assistant Chief Kyle speak to that?
I know that there is an effort to increase law enforcement based upon what we've seen. But I also know that today is about the Lashimskis and Sarah and 2 other victims whose lives are forever changed because of one individual's decision to come to this city and create a ripple effect that has rippled throughout the world. And that's enough on the other stuff. Okay?
Could we ask Assistant Chief Kyle for his reaction to that? More federal law enforcement. Could you come to the microphone?
I'd rather we talk about Lashimski. You can call him later. I'm done.
A follow-up on the cases. You mentioned specifically Rodriguez's actions towards Sarah being the reason why you would. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I know you mentioned it during your.
No, I can't. That will come out at trial. But I refer you to that part of the special findings. It's horrific. Thank you all very much. Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Let's go.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Taking over a little bit early for the stream from 2 to 4 today. I'm Colin Mayfield. We're just getting some looks into the State Department. They are holding or about to hold their daily briefing. So we're going to go to this now live as they are already in session. All right, having a little bit of an issue here with the audio here. Just give us 1 second. But we are getting some word, and we do have the AP report right now that 2 Pennsylvania state troopers were shot this Thursday or this morning. Obviously, it is Thursday. And this was actually broken by Governor Josh Shapiro outside an event in or around the Philadelphia area, I should say. So there's not much known at this point, but it did happen in northeastern Pennsylvania. We're working to learn more behind the scenes, but we do have our audio back up at the State Department. We'll go to this Pennsylvania incident as soon as we get more information and hopefully some live breaking news to go to.
Cambodia-Thailand ceasefire arrangements. President Trump and Secretary Rubio call on both governments to fully honor their commitments and pursue enduring peace. We welcome Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim for his leadership and we commend Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim for his leadership in facilitating this process and for co-hosting the pivotal July 28 special meeting with the United States. And with that, I'll take some questions. Yes.
Thank you, Tommy. My name is Ali Barada from Al-Sharq Al-Awsat newspaper, and my question is that Lebanon's government today took a very critical decision regarding disarming Hezbollah and to accept, in fact, the U.S. proposal to solidify the cessation of hostilities with Israel. Would you please comment on that?
Yes, what I can say is the United States welcomes the Lebanese government's decision on Tuesday to task the Lebanese armed forces with a plan to bring all weapons under state control by the end of the year. This is an important step towards Lebanese sovereignty. We continue to watch developments in Lebanon very closely. Special Envoy Tom Barrack made it clear what the president needs to see. As long as Hezbollah retains arms, words will not suffice. The Lebanese armed forces must fully commit and act now to fully implement the government's decision. The credibility of Lebanon's government rests on its ability to match principle with practice.
A quick follow-up. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that this decision by the Lebanese government will fail. And I wonder whether you have some comment on that, and also whether you can tell us if Ambassador Barrack will visit Lebanon anytime soon.
Well, on that front, I have nothing to preview on that. He's been in discussion with all of the players in the region multiple times, as we've discussed publicly here. What I can say again, in terms of your other question, is that we welcome this decision. And like I said at the end of that response, we need to see action match the principle that they're having there. So we need to see practice, not just principle. Yes.
Thank you. My question is about China. While both the U.S. and Chinese leaders are trying to have a summit meeting in the near future, the Russian and Chinese navies carried out joint exercises in the Sea of Japan, including anti-submarine drills. And China continues to purchase Russian oil. So how are you concerned of the China's move that might help Russia? And I have a brief follow-up.
Well, let me take, for the specifics, let me take that back and see if we can get further details for you on that. What I can say, though, is we've been clear about how the United States views itself as a Pacific nation. We are a Pacific nation. We've seen the highest levels of engagement with our allies and partners across the region. The fact that we stand with our allies and partners across the region, both the Secretary, of course, going to the region, but other high-level delegations from this department over just the last few weeks. So we've seen that engagement, we've seen that commitment here, and that engagement will continue.
And it's been reported that Indian Prime Minister Modi is set to visit China for the first time in 7 years. And Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has criticized the U.S. tariffs imposed on countries including Brazil and India. So are you concerned that China and other BRICS countries are trying to take the lead in organizing a kind of pushback against U.S. trade measures?
Well, what I can say in terms of India is the president has been very clear in terms of the concerns he has regarding the trade imbalance, regarding the concerns he has when it comes to the purchase of Russian oil. You've seen him take action directly on that, and I refer you to the president's comments for that. India is a strategic partner with whom we engage in a full and frank dialogue. That'll continue. The Secretary also spoke to that. Like anything in foreign policy, you're not going to align 100% of the time on everything. But it is very clear, the President's been clear, the concerns that he has with the trade imbalance, the concerns he has with India purchasing Russian oil, he's been clear on that. He's taken action, and I refer you to his comments for further on that. Yes.
Noting, hi, okay, doing okay. Noting your statement on Lebanon a moment ago, I mean, I know you said that the U.S. will be watching developments, but the U.S. has not been like a passive player in the Lebanon situation. It's been very active. Going forward, I mean, is the U.S. going to be continue to be a broker? Is it going to take on kind of an enforcer role? I mean, how can you give me a picture of how deeply involved you're going to be going forward here as Lebanon tries to implement the disarmament of Hezbollah?
Well, obviously, we've seen discussions from the Ambassador Tom Barrack, the special envoy in the region. We've also seen comments here on Lebanon from this podium just now and in the past. In terms of our specific role, what I can say is what I said earlier, that we'll continue to watch developments in Lebanon very closely, and that we need to see the practice there match the principle that they have.
One other question. A report today that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation finally secured a meeting with United Nations officials. A, can you confirm that? And B, I know that GHF and the State Department have been calling for cooperation to happen, but never really an idea of what that cooperation would actually look like in practice. Can you give us an idea of what exactly the State Department envisions in a cooperative agreement between GHF and the UN?
Well, I refer you to GHF for more details on meetings they may or not be having with different organizations or the United Nations. What I can say is we've been clear is that we want to see as much aid as possible go to the people of Gaza without it being looted by Hamas. We've been clear that we want to see creative solutions, that there's a mechanism in place that has been able to deliver 110 million meals without it being looted by Hamas. We've also been clear in our concerns about how other different delivery systems have seen issues when it comes to the diversion of aid. So the specifics, we'll see exactly. The President's talked about wanting to see more aid get into Gaza. We've seen, for example, from this podium, talking about how the Ambassador and Special Envoy Witkoff have briefed the President after their recent trip to the region. We'll see what specifics come out in terms of future steps, but there are many options being discussed. We want to see as much aid get to the people of Gaza without it being looted by Hamas as possible. Yes.
A question about Europe. It has been reported in the past hours that the United States government has launched a diplomatic campaign targeting the European Union's Digital Services Act. According to this reporting, the United States would be arguing that it's imposing excessive restrictions on free speech. And given the ongoing negotiations between the United States and the European Union, could you confirm that that campaign is active, and what would be the main motivation and the outcome that the United States would like to see regarding the DSA?
In terms of negotiations, are you referring to trade on that front?
Yeah.
So in terms of specifics on the trade negotiations, I refer you to USTR, the White House, and those directly involved in those negotiations. We have been clear from the beginning of this administration the importance this administration places on free speech. That is something that the Vice President spoke to in Munich when he said democracy rests on the sacred principle that the voice of the people matters. We shouldn't be afraid of our people, even when they express views that disagree with their leadership. This has been an honest and frank conversation that we have been having with our partners in Europe around the world, the importance that we place on free speech, and that importance is going to continue. Yes.
Thank you. Asking about President Trump and the potential summit with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. I know White House officials have said that for that meeting to take place, Putin needs to be willing to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But I was wondering, can you put a fine point on that? Is there any world in which this summit between President Trump and President Putin can happen without Putin agreeing to a Zelensky meeting as well?
Well, I'm going to refer you to the White House on that one for details on the president's schedule. What I can say is looking backwards, as the Secretary has described, we have been in continual communication with our partners in Europe, continual communication with Ukraine. Our ultimate goal is to end this conflict, get the parties to the table, see the ceasefire and enduring peace. But for details on the president's schedule, I'll refer you to the White House. Yes.
Can you
Tommy. Rachel with Lily Broadcasting, good to see you. In regards to Ukraine, does the Secretary have any maybe scheduling a chance meeting with his counterpart, with Ukrainian officials, or with any Russian officials?
I have nothing to preview in terms of his schedule at this point.
Okay, and then Hugh, real quick on Haiti. You mentioned that millions of dollars are going to go towards the malnutrition problem in Haiti. However, the State Department could potentially deport thousands of people, Haitians that are currently residing in the United States, back to Haiti. There's still political instability there. What does the State Department have to say about that?
Well, look, we've seen actions from this administration in order to try to encourage stability in Haiti. We've seen actions, announcements taken to try to go after those that are leading to instability in Haiti, announcements the Secretary himself has made. We see this aid from American producers by American producers going to these 13 countries. For specifics on TPS, I assume that you're talking about, I refer you to DHS in terms of those specific decisions. But we have seen actions here from the State Department to try to encourage stability in Haiti. We've seen, again, this announcement of aid going to Haiti and other countries as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Tommy. Apologies.
It is tough. My phone sometimes autocorrects to Tammy nowadays, so my own phone does it. I don't know.
Follow up on Russia, Ukraine again. What is your level of trust to Putin that he is not, engaging in another delaying tactic here? And how over optimistic, or will it be over optimistic for us to expect anything out of this meeting, potential meeting?
Well, it's not a question of trust, it's a question of actions. The president has described how he's been disappointed in the actions that we have seen from Russia over recent weeks. He's talked about seeing actions, not just words. He's described that himself. So this is not a question of trust per se. This is a question of seeing actions to match up the words, but also is indicative of the commitment that we have made clear from the beginning of this administration that we stand ready to aid in the pursuit of peace, to try to end this conflict, stop the carnage. That is our driving policy here. That remains our driving policy. And getting the sides to the table is key to reaching a diplomatic solution to this conflict. So it's not about trust. It's about action, and it's about doing everything we can to aid in the pursuit of peace and bring this war to an end.
And to follow up on Russia again, today marks 17 years since Russia invaded in Georgia. They are, holding Georgian land. They are successfully seems to have implanted their pro-Russian government that is cracking down against Georgian, opposition, civil society. So, do you have any comment on both, Russian occupation and also Georgian government's behavior?
The United States Embassy in Georgia put out a statement. I refer you to that statement for further details there. Yes.
Hey, Tom, following up once again on Russia, Ukraine, you talk about the goal of a peaceful solution. What's at stake if we can't get that peaceful solution from a potential upcoming meeting, if negotiations go nowhere?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on what may come out of these meetings. I'm not going to predict the future. What I can talk about, again, is our commitment now, what we have done, what we continue to do, engagement at the highest levels of this administration to try to end this conflict and stop the carnage. We stand ready, like I said, to aid in the pursuit of peace. We continue to do that. So I'm not going to speculate or predict the future, but I can talk about that commitment we've seen already and continue to see. Yes.
Thank you. On the West Bank.
All right, we want to do a quick wrap of all the news that we are watching at this moment. We do know that 2 troopers have been shot in Pennsylvania right now, the northeastern part of Pennsylvania specifically. And it was very odd because some of the reports were lagging in terms of when they were coming in when this happened, I believe in the 1 o'clock hour. But it was interesting because Governor Josh Shapiro actually announced this at an event outside of Philadelphia. Had something totally different, obviously not to do with what happened. Now, this location is in a rural area. It's around Route 171 near the village of Thompson, if you know that northeastern part of Pennsylvania. Senator Dave McCormick has posted something on social media. So has the governor, Governor Shapiro, and it sounds like Governor Shapiro is actually headed to the scene right now. We do know that these 2 state troopers were shot. We do not know their condition. We do know they were taken to a local hospital. It appears to be by helicopter, apparently. But again, we are watching this developing situation. And again, there's been reports that this could be an active shooter. Sometimes those type of reports come out almost simultaneously. So we're trying to verify to make sure that that's a situation that is potentially evolving into that direction. Outside of that, we are watching, and you were just listening in to the State Department as they're covering everything from Gaza and what's happening with Israel. That's been the big discussion with many Americans and the State Department as a whole with getting aid into Gaza. And there's been so many reports of starving children, starving people. So they are kind of updating the situation there. And then third thing that we are watching is a breaking news situation in Alton, Illinois, on the Mississippi River there. There was a helicopter crash that first responders are on the scene right now. And apparently from the St. Charles County District, they are saying that they are on the scene. It crashed onto a barge on the Missouri side of the Mississippi River. So this is quite the scene. 2 people did die in this crash as well, and I think there's more coming from this, but it happened just around 11:05 a.m. I would say that's Central Time. So, right around noon our time. And it seems like Missouri State Highway Patrol, they are on the scene. We do have a live shot right now, James, and a live coverage from KSDK that we want to go to right now.
On the red part or actually on the barge? Missouri State Highway Patrol kind of give us an update as to what is taking place on the Mississippi River, just on the Missouri side outside of Alton. That's our Holden Kowicki right now.
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, hey Rennie, we are out here along the Lock and Dam just south of Alton, and Missouri State Highway Patrol Corporal Dallas Thompson just confirmed 2 individuals have passed away after a helicopter crash. At this time it's believed that helicopter was doing some sort of work in the area, possibly on some high tension power lines that are crossing the Mississippi here just south of Alton. When that helicopter started to go down, they attempted actually to land on a barge when that helicopter crashed. By the time first responders arrived at the scene, that helicopter was on fire. At this time it's unclear if anybody was actually on the barge at that time or if it was loaded or unloaded. As multiple agencies continue to respond out here, they are trying to really just sort through this area. They do have the river closed to both commercial and recreational traffic as they continue to follow up on this investigation. But at this time, we can confirm 2 people have passed away following a helicopter crash here just south of Alton. I'm going to throw it back to you guys in the studio for now.
Hey, thank you, Holden. Holden Kowicki reporting to us live from just outside of the Mississippi River where the crash took place near Alton. We will have more on this throughout the evening here on 5 on Your Side. For now, we'll return you to our regular program.
They're going to have
Not exactly sure what's going on or what we were just listening to. They could be off the air for a second, but while we gather the right sound source for you, let's give a little bit more background. I just found out that obviously the U.S. Coast Guard would be on the scene. I didn't think about that in this report, but from KSDK, they say that the U.S. Coast Guard is there. The upper Mississippi River is closed to any vessel traffic in the area while the investigation is ongoing. That area is, Mississippi River as a whole has a lot of barges that go up and down, obviously transporting so many different things through America's heartland. But apparently this helicopter attempted to land on this barge and then just burst into flames. Reportedly hit a power wire and then knocked that loose into the river. Obviously a very volatile situation there. And apparently state troopers saying the helicopter had workers on board who were trying to do work on nearby power lines. So again, a developing situation. State police saying that the Lewis and Clark Bridge coming into Illinois is also temporarily closed to traffic due to the incident. There's no estimated reopening time at this point, but I'm sure they are deep in this investigation and trying to figure out how this happened. I'm sure just or these people thought it'd be some routine work at this moment. So seeing some live shots from KVVU now on the banks of the Mississippi River. We just heard from that reporter right there in the shot. shot, as you can see, speaking to somebody locally. Can't highlight enough how good it is to have folks that are willing to speak to us and give us eyewitness reports in these type of situations. Obviously helps us tell the story. We say that all the time when we are in weather coverage. Folks giving us videos and photos, sending it through the Near Me feature. It's so big. So seems like this guy is getting his interview ready. Maybe we can take this live as soon as he gets ready to mic this guy up here, James, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, we'll keep an ear on it.
Okay.
And like you mentioned, we did just see this reporter as part of KSDK's news coverage. And now we're kind of just beaming in on some of their raw feeds, Colin. And it does seem like maybe we're going to get an interview here. And I will just say that we can see it, but I don't know if we can hear it. Let me turn the audio on.
Okay.
They may not have flipped their audio on just yet.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Well, we'll wait for them for 1 second. And if they pop back up, guys, let me know. We'll continue to kind of talk over this here and give them a couple of minutes. Again, this crash, we'll run through this one more time, happened around 11:05 a.m., so a little bit earlier. I believe that's Central Time because they're in Alton, Illinois, so that would be right around noon our time. So first responders, they are still on scene. We do have audio. Let's go to it now.
W-A-L-L-A-C-E, last name Meyer, M-A-I-E-R.
And you said you're a fishing guide out
Yeah, I'm actually Captain Wally is what I go by out here. But I work for Show Me Catfish and Trophy Guide Service.
You were out on the river, this morning. Kind of take me through what you saw.
So today we've been up here by the dam fishing most of the morning, and we've seen the helicopter out here working on the power lines, just kind of flying back and forth. Well, then we went downriver and we're coming back up as the charter ended, and next thing you know, they're like, hey, there's that helicopter, and whether it was coming through couldn't tell if it was flying this way or if it was actually sitting on the lines, but it was doing something with the balls up there, and then all of a sudden it touched the line, and in 2 seconds it wasn't a helicopter anymore. It was 1,000 pieces, and then it went. All you seen was a fiery ball, and it came across and landed on this Missouri side barge that was staged up here waiting to go through the lock. Well, at that time I dialed 911, told them there's a helicopter down out here, and of course they transfer me like 7 times because they don't hear that every day. Well, I'm like, we're going to go see if there's any survivors. Well, as I'm coming across, I noticed it looked like a fueling barge, and I said, no, we're not going over there because if it explodes. Well, we went back across to the Illinois side for safety and noticed that 2 of the power lines are actually laying in the water too. So at that point, I'm like, I'm going to get you guys back to safety. We went under the lines, came around, floored it up here, got them off the boat, and then I hurried up, got my boat out just in case there was electric current in the water. So, and then it was insane. Like, prayers to the pilot and whoever else was in that, because nobody wants to see that, but it was one of them. I'll never forget it.
When you say exploded,
I mean, when it hit, it was a split second. It didn't wrap up. It didn't do anything. As soon as it touched it, it was just explosion. It was just gone. And it was a white helicopter, and when it hit, there was no white helicopter anymore. It was just a fireball.
you ever seen anything like that even in movies?
Movies, but it don't look like that in a movie. I mean, the movies, they're more dramatic. You can see the helicopter. This was instantaneously, and within 10 seconds, it was in the air, and it was landing on that barge. So.
You had a group with you?
Yes, I actually had 5 people with me, 3 kids and 2 adults.
How were the kids reacting to that?
They were kind of tired from being out all day. They were just laying around, and then one of them actually did see, they go, oh, look at the helicopter, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, it hit the power lines, and that was pretty much it with them. But the parents, were of course more frantic about it than anything, because what do we do? What do we do? I was like, we're just going to call 911. That's all we can do. And then props to whoever that barge captain is out there, because they pulled off that barge and went over there and put that fire out within minutes. Like it was before a fire department, because they can't get here that quick. And that could have been a way bigger disaster than what it already is.
So you're saying the barge pulled off?
Yeah, there was a barge up here. If you whenever you guys show that behind me, they're staged up there. Well, they're filling up, like that's where they offload stuff and stuff like that. Well, the one pulled off and went over there and sprayed it with a hose, like put it out, because it was a big ball fire until they got to it.
Is it common to see?
He knows how to bring people to the table. That has been evident both in the previous administration.
Up there, well, they're filling up, like that's where they offload stuff and stuff like that. Well, the one pulled off and went over there and sprayed it with a hose, like put it out, because it was a big ball of fire until they got to it.
Is it common to see helicopters down here?
Not here. Downtown, yes, you know, the tour helicopter, but right here, that's the first time I've seen them out here. But you could tell it wasn't like a tourist helicopter, it was a working helicopter.
How do you process what you witnessed today?
I'm still in disbelief that it happened. I mean, I can't, like I said, it sucks that I don't know how many people were on it. I heard 2 confirmed, but that's very sad. I wish it was a different outcome and we could have did something, but there was just nothing we could do. Not with a cockpit, but basically in a fireball. So.
Thank you very much. How long have you traveled in this neck of the woods?
Listening to some eyewitness accounts here as to what happened, and it's pretty stunning to listen to this man talk about what they saw. 1 minute, they're on their charter boat going, they see the helicopter in the air. He said the helicopter hit the power line, and at that point dispersed into a fireball.
He said, quote, "I'll never forget it. It is one of those things that you will never forget." And he had 3 kids and 2 adults with him at that time. So just something they won't ever forget. Yeah. We do have Michelle Lee in studio. Michelle, you've actually been working on what exactly this helicopter is. What have you been able to learn?
So we know that the FAA is investigating, and also the NTSB, and they are remarking that this is a Hughes 369D helicopter. This is a commercial helicopter, and so we do know a little information about it. This is often used in a situation to lift linemen, aerial linemen as we call them. Also, it takes extensive training to do this sort of work, as well as specialized training. So while it is a part of a normal part of a job, it does take an extensive amount of training. Now, we have reached out to the local IBEW. We've reached out to a lot of people who might have some background and some information on what this work entails. I also called Ameren to just try to get an idea of what this looks like. Now, I'll show you this video. This is from the IBEW, the National Union, and they shared this video of what an aerial lineman does. If we can show it to you, because it really is extensive. It is one of the most specialized, dangerous jobs out there. And so what you can see, if we have a chance to look at it, is that you'll see a pilot, you'll also see a lineman. They're working in tandem together to get, it is at the end and the bottom of this rundown on the noon. So it is, anyway, we will try to get that for you in just a little bit. But this is a Hughes 369D, often used to lift linemen in this situation. Again, NTSB will be leading this investigation because of the 2 deaths that we know about, and also the FAA will be also a part of this. So this is what we know right now. I'm going to send it back to you and try to find out more, and also track down that video for you guys.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Now, I live in Chesterfield, and I live very close to the large power lines. I've actually witnessed the power lines being worked on by the linemen, and it's truly something to see. So you have the helicopter that is flying, and then dangling below the helicopter is the lineman, and they just pull them up, and then they just work along the lines that way. And as Michelle said, it is very dangerous work. It was interesting, though, to see that picture of that particular helicopter that she used, because you heard her eyewitness say at 1 minute, there's this white helicopter.
Yo, these were sold out everywhere, but then my eBay alerts went off. Got them. Felt lucky, so I looked up some more heat. Now those are on the way from a dude in Indiana. Thanks.
Oh, those pesky YouTube ads. All right, we are going to get through this right now. Go back to KSDK's coverage.
Update everybody on what we're dealing with right now. This is a developing breaking news situation. Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear our producer. What did he say?
Okay. Holden is available. So let's go back out to Holden Kowicki, who is on scene. And Holden, you just spoke with the eyewitness. His account of what took place is simply unbelievable. And as he said, it is something that he will never, ever forget.
Maybe the one, and his answer was maybe the one that stuck to heart of me the hardest, was that, you know, I asked him, how do you even begin to process what you saw today? And he said, I don't know. You know, he's fished this area, he said, for 5 to 6 years, almost daily. And, you know, he said, while it's more common to see helicopters, you know, closer to the city in the downtown area with some of those tourist helicopters that run up and down the Mississippi, he said he had never actually seen a helicopter in this part of the Mississippi, especially this close to the lock and dam. He was telling me that he had a family on with some small kids, and he said, you know, at first they didn't think much of it, and then all of a sudden they heard a noise, and he said the helicopter was just in 1,000 pieces heading towards that barge. He actually said that they were trying to get over there, and then they saw that it was not only a possible gas barge, but that there were lines in the river. I'm going to actually turn off here so you can get a look at what appears to be it's Missouri State Highway Patrol on the river. They are just getting back out, from checking out that scene. But the captain that I spoke with, he's with Show Me Catfishing, and he just said that, again, there was so much fire that he wanted to try and get over there. But he said one of the remarkable things was something he had never seen, even though he's an experienced riverman, was that actually another barge within minutes pulled right up next to that barge as it was on fire and quickly got the hoses out and got that fire extinguished. As he mentioned, there are no roads that get down to that area. So without, a possible, pump barge to get that fire out, that fire could have continued burning and possibly even spreading to a number of barges which have really lined up there along the Mississippi. That's an area where he said that a number of barges typically unload and offload not only crew but also cargo as well. And he said he just couldn't process that he, a family with small children went from enjoying their day fishing to just, seeing two people lose their lives in this tragedy out here just south of the Lock and Dam.
I can't even imagine. And Holden, I heard you ask him, and I just want to make sure people are now tuning in. You said, what were the kids' reactions? These little kids witnessing this, what did he tell you?
He said actually the kids didn't know what they were looking at, really know what they were processing. As I even asked him, have you seen anything like this even in movies before? He said, well, I've seen it in movies, but it didn't look like this. He said, in movies, it's typically a slow descent. He said this helicopter essentially, was in 1,000 pieces, after clipping that wire. And then he even mentioned he was scared because there were 2 high-tension wires down in the water. Missouri Highway Patrol, mentioned that as well. It's unclear, who will be responsible for, trying to fix that or what possible dangers, are in the river. But the interesting thing that the captain told me was that, the parents in that family knew what was going on. As a parent myself, I can't imagine trying to explain that to my child, what they witnessed on what was supposed to be, just a family day out on the river.
Holden, we know that the river traffic has been shut down while the investigation is going on, but we are seeing some activity behind you. We saw the Missouri State Highway Patrol pull up. Just turn around, take a look, and give us an idea of what is happening out there right now on the river.
Yeah, I actually, we're seeing a number of these first responder boats, and I actually see a fire boat. It says OFFPD. I'm not familiar. I'm trying to see the front of that boat. It appears that it possibly says Orchard Fire Protection District. So there are a number of crews out here, and really they are coming in from the scene right now. I can see them going up to the staging area, which is a little bit farther to the north, just here in the parking lot here at the Lock Dam, where they are discussing exactly what they are seeing out there on the river. Again, it's just a very tragic situation, as we continue to wait for both the NTSB and the FAA, for their reps to get out here. I'm sure they're going to want to be on one of these boats, getting out there and seeing that firsthand look at this wreckage of what seems to be truly a tragic accident.
Holden, I can't help but wonder about the weather conditions out there at this time. It's been, warm, it's been sunny pretty much all the week. Things kind of changed today. Is it windy out there? Are you seemingly witnessing any type of conditions that may have been a factor for the helicopter?
From where I'm standing right here, I do feel a possible south to southwest breeze, but nothing windy. That said, looking off to the north, and I'm sure Lance may have a little bit better look at this on the radar, it does appear that there are some clouds, a possible system, moving in from that direction. But right now, it's fairly calm. I'm sure you guys could probably see me. Actually, this slight breeze has been a bit of a respite for us out here because it has been so hot here along the river. With really, at the time when we arrived on the scene, there was no air movement.
Give us an idea, Holden, just because of the amount of agencies that are coming in to investigate this, in terms of what you've seen in the past hour, couple of hours that you've been out there. What is that like in terms of the manpower that's coming to help figure this all out?
There is an impressive amount of manpower. out here, and I have a feeling just from speaking to a couple first responders, that manpower is only going to grow as multiple more agencies arrive on scene. At first, it seems that, admittedly, there was a bit of confusion. When they get a call, when something goes down in the river, not only is Coast Guard involved, but then you have agencies on both the Missouri side and the Illinois side. They had to sort through all that as they tried to arrive on the scene, tried to locate that helicopter, which again is probably about a half mile to a mile behind us. I keep messaging, you're kind of saying this, and it rings true. That you at home may actually be getting a little bit better look at what's going on down there in the barge than I am right now, because we have that telephoto lens on our camera right now. It seems fairly calm right now, as if they're almost possibly doing a bit of a shift change, down in this area with the first responders. Some kind of swapping out, getting on the boats, some heading back out. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how really not only the next few hours, but even the next 15, 20, 30 minutes out here will play out. But again, everybody is really just having a hard time kind of wrapping their heads around the fact that, not only one person, but two people lost their lives.
One thing about this, there's a lot of people on the river this time of the day. You got charter boats out there, you got people working on the river, people driving along the river just to view what is going on up that way. Do you see other people on the other side? Are people now gathering there to see what's taking place on the river?
Yeah, Maddie, let's actually take a look over here. You can see over on the Illinois side, there is some barge traffic parked over that way. I do know where all these barges are parked here to the southeast of where I'm standing. There is a parking lot down in that area, and it's a fairly popular fishing area. But I can't see, just because of the amount of barges that are starting to pile up here. Obviously, the Mississippi being one of the busiest, commercial throughways in terms of barge traffic in the entire world. So it could get pretty stacked up here in terms of the barge traffic. It is a little difficult to see over on Route 3. I can't see traffic going up and down, but I can't see if any civilians, are lining up out here. I do know that Highway Patrol did have to ask one civilian journalist to leave earlier. They just want to try and keep this scene fairly, secure as they wait for all these agencies who are going to, again, want to get a look at this wreckage.
Well, Holden, we appreciate your hard work and getting out there as quickly as you could. I know that you want to still try to gather some more information from people on scene. Why don't you go ahead and take a break and go see if you can't talk to more people about what took place, so that we have more of a picture as to what happened on the river today.
Thank you, Holden.
All right, thank you, Rennie.
All right, we've got some viewer video right now that we want to show everybody, and this could be a bit jarring for some people now that you know exactly what took place here. But this is the downed helicopter on the barge burning as we speak. Now, Holden spoke earlier about another barge coming over to help put this fire out.
Put it out really quickly.
Really quick. And one of the problems is that you can only get there through the water.
Yep.
There are no roads to get over that way. So
The eyewitness told Holden it was almost immediate.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for them. This is from Adam Briggs. We also know that our reporter Justina Cornell also did talk to Adam. So hopefully we'll be able to hear more from what he was able to witness. Even being on the other side of that and him recording that, imagine what's going through his head. And again, we know it was a Hughes 369D helicopter, which is a commercial helicopter that these aerial linemen use a lot. And we also know from our Michelle Lee that it's one of the most dangerous jobs. But they're very skilled and it's very specialized. So, when you see that smoke, it's just jarring. And I can't imagine those kids, the eyewitness that Holden spoke to, seeing all that, they couldn't even process it just being out there. But thankful that
we took it live. We kind of clipped the beginning of it as everything was getting set up.
Yep.
Well, let's go to that now so we can understand more about what took place and get the official word from authorities.
And whenever they first got here, there was one of the power lines that had fell into the water. We wasn't sure if it was live power yet at that point in time, so we kind of did an evacuation of the immediate area just to kind of make it safe in the area. We have since learned that that's not a live power line anymore, so there's no danger to the area here or anybody that's on the water.
Any idea what was in that barge? Or was it loaded? Was it grain, gas?
Yeah, I'm not real sure at this point in time.
And
So at this point, you don't know if there's any concern as far as anything leaking or?
No, there's no concerns of that at all.
Are the bridges still shut down? You know, at this time?
All the highways are in and around the area are open to local traffic. So, like I say, at this point in time, we're just waiting on the FAA to get here and work with the Coast Guard as well. It's a federal waterway, so we're just kind of trying to figure out where do we go, who's going to handle what parts of this investigation going forward.
And to your knowledge, nobody on the barge?
To our knowledge right now, yes.
Who took over the initial investigations? When it happened, who was in charge when it all started?
Well, there was a joint command post put up here by the local fire department, St. Charles County Ambulance District, St. Charles County Police, and then the Highway Patrol all came together about the same time and started initiating those efforts.
Was Illinois involved at all?
Madison.
All right, so learning some new information specifically from state troopers, and we lost our shot, but we are going to go back and look for another source. So just give us a couple of minutes as we gather things here. But again, our partners at KSDK really holding things down and getting information after 2 were killed in this helicopter crash in Alton, Illinois. We do have the shot back. Let's go to it now.
See what job they're performing here today. Okay.
So that was the entire news conference there that we were just listening to from Missouri State Highway Patrol. Well, we do have a statement now from an Ameren spokesperson. It reads, quote, "We are saddened about today's tragic incident. Our thoughts and heartfelt condolences are with the victims' families and colleagues. We will cooperate with this investigation."
And we also know in that they added that an Ameren contractor and its subcontractor was repairing and replacing tower lighting and maker balls on lines in Madison County, Illinois. There are no power outages associated with today's event. That was something we were trying to work on. But you know, when you look at something like this, 2 lives lost, that's what this story is at the end of the day, and it's just heartbreaking. We're hoping to learn more about those 2 people. And, you know, again, we know that this is a commercial helicopter. It's always used for things like this. Linemen, we see it all the time, and even storms. You know, their job is very dangerous, but especially these aerial linemen working where they're working, very specialized, a lot of training. So it's just heartbreaking and definitely a tragedy. We heard word about this actually, you know, via social media. This happened right after 11 o'clock this morning. A lot of agencies out there. They're waiting on the FAA. They're going to be one of the main agencies investigating this.
Yes.
Just really ongoing. And we were talking earlier, Rennie, while we had that press conference, Holden's out there, and as a reporter, when you're out there seeing all of it and experiencing it, talking to these eyewitnesses, you know, it is overwhelming, and you kind of do get a sense of how everything is out there. And as Holden was describing it, you know, it's just solemn, and people are trying to wrap their heads around what happened here. And the viewer video that we see, I just cannot imagine being on that river and seeing what took place, especially now knowing that 2 lives were lost in this incident.
And we know that there's going to be more people who have witnessed this, who may not have had an ability to record what was taking place, didn't even think about it in that type of light. You think about it, 2 people just going to work this morning, just doing the job that they were being paid to do, trained to do, and a tragedy like this happened. Our eyewitness said that it was fairly instantaneous, that once the helicopter hit the power line, it basically blew up. What remained of that landed onto the barge, and that is when the other barge came across and helped put that fire out. We mentioned earlier that getting to where this was, you couldn't drive there. You had to go in a boat to get across. At the same time, it was difficult getting there because of the locks that are there. So the first responders who were getting to the site, it took them a while to get across the water as well to what was taking place.
And it's one of those things where the Mississippi River is, we even had trouble figuring out what agency to reach out to. As a news station, you know, is it ISP, is it MSHP? You know, that kind of blurs the lines once you get on the water, right? Of who has to respond, and that's really important in these types of incidences. And we also know that for a while, part of the bridges were shut down, but those are all open. So if you are coming back on your afternoon commute in a few hours, traffic on the roads are okay. Right now it's the river traffic that's closed because those agencies need that area to investigate.
They're on the water.
Yeah.
Once again, to give you an idea of where this is on the Mississippi River, But on the West Alton side, more of the Missouri side of the river, we know this is near the Melvin Price Lock and Dam. So if you know this area, you could probably get a visualization as to where all of this has taken place. Holden gave us a view real quick of the river traffic, and you could see the barges that are just being stopped and stacked up as they wait for everything to take place. The NTSB will be heading up the investigation into this, but they're also waiting for the FAA to arrive. We know that the Coast Guard is already on scene. We've seen their boats out there already, but this is still coming together, and it's probably going to take a while before we truly know what all took place on the river today.
Yeah, and if you think it happened right after 11 o'clock this morning, we're almost 3 hours into it. There's still so many unknowns that we're still trying to work through.
And that's the hard part about, again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again, covering a story like this, because when we first get word of this, it comes across our scanners. This is happening. Well, then we've got to go investigate it for ourselves to make sure it is indeed taking place. You then get to see a bunch of things still circulated on social media. We don't know where it's coming from exactly. Right. So again, we've got to get up there, and it takes a while to get to Alton, and if they're starting to close down roads, now you got to find an alternate way to get there. Holden was able to arrive. He was able to bring us back, you know, the latest developments as to what's taking place up there. He remains up in the West Alton area. We'll continue to talk to people and get a better idea of where things go from here.
And even just showing what the investigation has to go through. We were trying to get one of our photographers out there to do drone, and he said he couldn't do it at the time because they were flying drone trying to figure it out. So when these types of situations and these tragedies happen on a body of water, it makes it that much more difficult for all these agencies trying to figure out, you know, what happened, what went wrong.
Well, there's so many different people that have to talk, and they don't necessarily train together, so they might do one thing this way, they might do that a different way. So that's why they got to come together, and then someone has to take the lead in the situation and then disperse folks to get things done. But we do know that once the helicopter went down, that the fire was put out fairly quickly, and that it undoubtedly got us away from another tragedy that could have taken place if something else had exploded, because there's probably people on that barge. And from what we understand, no one on the barge was injured when the helicopter came down. Now, we're still waiting to get official word on that, but we have yet to hear anything outside of the two occupants of the helicopter itself that perished in this crash. There's the video once again, and as I said earlier, it's probably tough for a lot of folks to see once you understand what actually took place there. But you can see it's way out on the other side of the river. It's not necessarily in the middle of the river, but is indeed on the water. You saw a second explosion there. Our eyewitness, who's a charter boat captain, told us that they were watching the helicopters on their way up the river. Just, oh, look, there's a helicopter. It hit the lines and then exploded. Well, what remained of that helicopter then landed on the barge, and that is the video that we're looking at right now. One of the eyewitnesses, Adam Briggs, was able to get us that video, and I believe you said Justina Cornell has reached out and is going to talk to him as well.
Yeah.
All right, there are a lot of things happening right now. We put up the big board at the New York Stock Exchange just to show you as things are getting closer to the end of day there and the close of stocks for the day. But obviously, we're watching the situations that are happening now, developing throughout this afternoon. Getting that new video from the two troopers shot in Pennsylvania who were transported from a northeastern rural part of Pennsylvania to local hospitals, and I still do not see any new condition updates at this time on them, but a very interesting situation because of the fact that Governor Josh Shapiro was at an event outside of Philadelphia, and he was the one who broke this news, and then 20 to even 30 minutes later, finally, the Pennsylvania State Police said that they had confirmed the situation and that two state police had been shot at this scene in northeastern Pennsylvania. So we're watching this and getting that for you. And obviously, this helicopter crash in Mississippi from our friends at KSDK continues. So we'll continue to watch that in Alton, Illinois. 2 people died in that crash as well. So we'll get more. But this video right here, as you can see, full from Pennsylvania. the situation where the state troopers were shot. So we do have one of our good reporters here on hand here inside the Impact studio, Julie Kay, who covers a myriad of things in terms of government, whether it's at the state, federal, or local level. Last night, I know we had a marathon county commissioners meeting, which you were present at, and I know it's not easy. There were plentiful sound bites for you to have to rifle through, and a lot of information that really went through last night. A big discussion was about the PAVE Act, right? And inside of that, which is a law already signed by Governor Josh Stein, gives way to put this referendum for the 1 cent sales tax on the November ballot, which was passed last night. Julie, let's just start there.
Yeah, we'll start with the biggest news, that will be on your ballot if you're in Mecklenburg County this November. So we've been talking about this for a while. This was the final step to put it in front of the voters, but not without 3 hours of public comment prior. That's what made that meeting so long. It was one of many things on the agenda, took up the most of it. I think upwards of 60 people signed up to speak, a lot of them in support of putting this up to voters. And again, this doesn't approve it. This just gives voters the chance to decide this for themselves. But quite a few people speaking, I would say the majority of speakers for it, although that does not mean that those that were against it didn't make some points that really stuck out to commissioners. At the end of that discussion, about 10:30 p.m., we're waiting to go on for our 11 p.m. show, and we're listening to each commissioner go down the row one by one, saying why they will or won't vote for it. Yeah. A lot of them, even though a lot of them voted for it, of course, mentioned some of those points that people against it made, said, hey, I understand what you're saying, but it's kind of now or never with this situation. Only one commissioner ended up voting against it. That was Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell, and she said at one point that she was going to vote for this and then changed her mind after speaking with constituents, which I think is really interesting.
Okay, so let's kind of dig through some of the numbers, and I do want to talk about some of the people who did speak against it, because they had some really outstanding things and some really thoughtful things to say. There was one man who was talking about the cold, wet feet people who had been in the rain all day, had to wait for transit, and really did not believe that this is going to do anything for certain parts like Steel Creek, Sugar Creek, those corridors. And it seems like, digging through some of the data from WFAE, if I might, this sales tax increase 1 cent is going to be now 8.25%. So they were estimating that the average household is going to pay $240 a year. A low-income household is going to pay roughly $130 a year. That's according to the city's statistics. Now, that's another burden for folks to add on, and that's what a lot of those individuals were discussing. And really, in another situation that I'm thinking of, there were a number of individuals who were blind who came to the mic, 4 or 5, and eloquently spoke about their journeys to try and get transit. Anything that kind of stuck out to you in some of those arguments as to why this micro transit shouldn't necessarily be on the ballot, and why it's not going to do much in those people's eyes for the city of Charlotte?
I think what's really interesting is that this isn't such a partisan issue in a way that most things are. We had some really prominent Democrats speaking against this last night. Former Mayor Jennifer Roberts, former Councilman Braxton Winston, people who have been very outspoken supporters of public transit in theory that say this is not cutting it. Yeah. Reasons why, you mentioned the cold, wet feet. Who is this actually benefiting? Right. Because across the board, it will impact anyone who spends money in Charlotte or in Mecklenburg County at any point. But who's really reaping the best benefits of this? That's why we saw for so long such pushback from Matthews. But now that that silver line is kind of out of the picture in terms of a light rail, and we've kind of moved on to look at other impacts of this, we're looking at people who rely on public transit, not just people who will benefit from it. So that's students, the elderly, people who may have disabilities and they cannot drive, and people who cannot afford a car. And so we're thinking this is going to impact everyone economically, but is it going to, are the benefits going to be dispersed in the way that is equitable? And that's what Jennifer Roberts and Braxton Winston were really getting at the core. Now, there have been some edits over the last couple of weeks trying to appease people who, made those points that many commissioners and council people see as very valid. Yeah. So for example, we're gonna have that transit authority. It's gonna be 27 people, has to be created by January 1st, so we've got a really short timeline here to appoint those people. But they did make an edit to that, so one person from the city and one person from the county level will have to be someone who uses public transit. Now, that sounds like an improvement. I talked to Action NC, and they said that's part of what we were asking for. But if you read the fine print, it doesn't have to be someone who relies on it, just someone who uses it. So, for example, it could be someone, who makes good money and lives out in the Lake Norman area who decides to take the light rail into work. It's not someone who necessarily needs public transit. Another thing, if you look at it, it says if they don't have someone qualified apply, they can kind of forego that requirement. So it doesn't add as much requirement level that they were hoping for. And so some small changes have been made, but overall last night, it doesn't sound like it was enough for people to be happy across the board.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out about the responsibility that's going to be shifting from the transit system from the city of Charlotte to a new authority, which is the Transit Authority. Other cities have this, so just kind of maybe specifying things and fine-tuning things in that regard. But this tax, as you know, is going to raise $25 billion over the next 30 years. 40% going to be dedicated to roads, 40% going to be dedicated to that rail transit, and 20% will be spent on the bus system and this new on-demand microtransit, which I think a lot of folks are looking forward to. That's the microtransit. That's the tagline that those individuals were speaking on that were blind last night. That would really help them get across the city, and it's great to hear from folks like that, because not only does it give you a different perspective, but it lets you understand what other people have to do in their journey across the city of Charlotte. So Atlanta was thrown out everywhere last night because
yes,
right, like when you go there, it's going to be heavily traffic ridden. And in a lot of places in Charlotte, it's not as bad as Atlanta. Let me just not be dramatic.
Also not as big as Atlanta.
No, but I live in Fort Mill, and it can take anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes on any day. Today, 30 minutes. I was stuck on 77 for quite some time.
Yep.
And it wasn't even raining heavily. Especially when there are dramatic weather events too. It is gridlocked. And then think about, we're heading into, the heart of hurricane season. We've got football games coming up. So this is just going to be an interesting setup for the next couple of decades for Charlotte to not only thrive, but hopefully to expand, because I think that they see the growth is coming, and that's really needed. So sorry to wax poetic there a little bit, but it will be interesting to see. There wasn't much discussed in the Silver Line. Now, you kind of talked about that a little bit. Update that situation, because yes, and I have a friend who's actually going to be moving to Matthews who is stoked about that, because he loves and has Hornets tickets, season tickets, and so he's going to be riding that at some point when it gets finished.
I know there's. Thinks.
I'm sorry?
I said that's what he thinks.
In theory.
You're talking about when it gets finished?
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to.
It'll be 30 years.
Wrong. 30 years, right?
Yeah, this is a very long-term plan, and that's also something that was discussed last night, that this isn't a 5-year plan. We're looking at 2035, 2045. With these plans, if you're going to do something this extensive, do need to be made early, and that's why they were kind of ragging on Atlanta, who had a choice to make a similar plan many decades ago and didn't, and now that's the position they're in now. And that's why everyone was kind of saying, we're all for the idea of expanding our public transit. We need to, but is this the best way to do it? And you mentioned the Silver Line. There are still, within that transit authority, decisions that can be made about what that bus route looks like. Where is it going to stop? Where is it going to go? We have not heard the end of the Silver Line.
Right.
I will say, Matthews Mayor John Higdon, when we talked to him when he filed for re-election, he said, I've kind of led this charge. We are the only municipality that has really fought back so strongly against this. This is not what I'm focusing my re-election on, because the decision's already been somewhat made. They really wanted the light rail, of course, which, I mean, he made the comparison to, you look at South End, how much that's grown since having access to a light rail. It's not going to be the same to have a bus system. So I don't think we've heard the end of that by any means, but I do think that is no longer his focus.
Well, it has to be said, I think it's very interesting that the people that were for, a lot of them who spoke last night, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, you were there, but it seemed from what we looked into, the people that were for putting this on the ballot seemed to be in positions of not necessarily prominence, but obviously they were making their claim known about how that would benefit. The mayor of Cornelius was there, as you pointed out. Ed Driggs was there. There were a couple other city council members who have a stake in this. Obviously, they live here. But it was very interesting to me to hear the people that were against this were everyday citizens that actually use this. And I'm not saying those individuals don't use it, but these people are primarily using transit every single day. And they were saying maybe those type of individuals should be part of this transit authority, right? So
Yeah.
those folks. So again, it's just some very interesting comments being made. And I was in Cincinnati before this. They have a streetcar that goes really nowhere besides the central business district, and they did not plan for that to happen, but funding ran out. It got super expensive, and so the same thing has not happened in Charlotte. But I think that they were a little bit worried about that, and then obviously. The culture, nobody really spoke about this, Julie, but a lot of people love to drive in Charlotte, and that's a culture that I'm wondering if they can shift or start to change a mindset, right? We live in Fort Mill. I'd love to leave the car at home if possible, maybe do a rideshare type of thing, but for some people it's just not convenient. So as you said, there are going to be lumps to come from this, but they're going to have to smooth them out at some point.
I think I'm glad you brought that up too, of the driving culture. I mean, I live in NODA, so I have kind of the example of I do have access to the Blue Line. I use it actively, but where I live, there's not necessarily a super walkable grocery store,
right?
And that doesn't necessarily change by the fact that there's a train for me to use. So it's more convenient for everyone in my vicinity, which is all. I mean, there's a gazillion apartments right there, a lot of them new, for people to drive. So that's another thing too. This is going to interact with our kind of like long-term community area planning vision for Charlotte that we've talked about quite a few times.
Right.
So we've got multiple big plans going on here at the same time. Yeah. Anytime, you mentioned Cincinnati, my family lives in Cincinnati, so I know about the streetcar that goes to nowhere.
Yep.
Anytime you have a big plan like this, almost always it costs more than you think it's going to.
Yeah, true.
And that's something that Jennifer Roberts touched on last night. This is an especially difficult year when we're seeing all these cuts.
Yeah.
More people are looking for funding sources. Regular people are losing their jobs or are strapped for cash right now. So it's not necessarily the world's best time to be spending a lot of money.
Well, and let's not forget, there's still a discussion about 77 being widened south of Charlotte, which has to happen. I mean, as you know, and I've talked about before a couple of minutes ago, sitting on 77, any day you sit in traffic. I mean, on a Saturday and Sunday, it's just crazy. I've never been in a city where that happens other than this area. So I know it happens in Chicago and other places, but yeah, just interesting how you can always count on, traffic on certain roads. So we'll see if congestion helps it. And again, there are so many people coming to Charlotte, and the studies are out there, right? 100 plus people a day. So this is really going to be a critical time for the city of Charlotte to really get this right. And for folks, who live in other places too, because Gastonia, Mooresville, Cornelius, even South Marvin, Waxhaw, those places are really growing. Weddington. So people have to get around Charlotte in a convenient amount of time. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and something that we'll be looking into, I think, over the next couple of weeks. I'll touch on this on my stories at 4 and 5. What happens if it doesn't pass? We've already purchased the tracks.
That's right.
So we've already made strides towards doing this. We're kind of committed to it financially already. So what happens now? The mayor has previously told our Ben Thompson, we'll put it on the ballot next year, but then that means most likely going through the General Assembly again, and the process starts over.
Right.
And so that's
a great question. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about what if.
Urgency of that's why it feels now.
Yeah.
Or never,
well, and it felt so for you people in positions. In different positions around Charlotte. I won't say positions of power, but, holding high offices. And again, interesting that residents who ride this every single day had some very interesting issues and problems with it that they could see coming to fruition. So we'll just see. All right, hold out hope. And like I said, it is a critical time right now for Charlotte to get this right. So there's a lot of pressure, a lot of eyes on the leaders in Charlotte right now to get this right. So Julie, thanks.
Everybody get registered to vote.
Yeah, that too. And let's not forget, it was a 6-hour meeting. Anything else that I'm missing that was on the docket that you thought jumped out at you that maybe we should discuss as well?
We could sit here for the full 6 hours, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I think that's what I'll leave you with for now.
Okay.
And I will say, actually, speaking of getting registered to vote, turnout, this is an off year for elections. This isn't necessarily a state election, so but it's still important. Every city council seat is up for re-election. The mayor of Charlotte's up for re-election, and this, so still a very important time to vote.
Yeah, great point. And you want to check your registration as well, because in North Carolina, there's been some issues and discrepancies with the federal government, so don't forget that as well. All right, Julie, I'll let you do your work. We appreciate you whenever you come on and putting things in layman's terms for the political dummy over here. I'll just speak for myself.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. All right, we are going to get a weather update. James, this is with Majestic Storm.
That's correct.
Let's go to this now.
Eventually, yes. I mean, even this weekend, I'm looking forward to it. A nice improvement. But first things first, there's a live camera view of outside. It's another dreary day out there. We do have mainly overcast conditions. Temperatures still on the cooler side, especially for an August forecast. And a few stray showers are still popping up. Now, this weekend, if you're starting to make some plans, I think we will have a little bit of sunshine. Temperatures rise back into the 80s. And then next week, if you've been missing that heat and humidity, maybe that sunshine as well, next week it'll actually feel like what it should for this time of the year. Let's get to it. Here's our satellite and radar. Still seeing a whole lot of cloud coverage out there, and you can still see some rain streaming in for parts of our viewing area. Now, not everyone, and it's kind of a mix of really light rain, possibly some mist or drizzle out there. You can see it even as we switch it over to our Doppler radar. And this is actually the area that has received the most amount of rain this morning. A lot of us have just been kind of dry and overcast, maybe just that misty conditions that we've been waking up to. That's what most of us have seen, but really that's where we have seen some accumulating rain, especially out there towards Raleigh. As we're looking at the rest of the day today, still more clouds and sunshine. Now, if we get lucky, which there is a good opportunity for that, maybe a little bit of peaks of sunshine later on in the late afternoon, early evening. 70s today, and then getting a little warmer as we're heading into tomorrow. Yesterday was better than the day before, and today hopefully gets better than where we were yesterday. We topped off at 74 degrees for our forecasted high, and today we're forecasting 77 for the Charlotte metro area. Now remember, we should be into the low end of the 90s, so we're still really far from where we should be for this time of the year. We have some foggy conditions out there across the mountain locations. Temperatures into the lower end of the 70s, 70 out there towards Banner Elk, 69 for Blowing Rock as we head towards the foothills, mainly mid to upper 70s today. For your forecasted high out there in Lenore, 78 degrees, 76 for Statesville, and everyone in Gastonia today, let's plan for 77 for you, Rock Hill, and Lancaster. So as we head throughout the day today, let's plan for 70s. But you can see by tomorrow, we finally get the return of some 80-degree temperatures, much the same as we're heading towards a weekend, but we're on this gradual warming trend. So you can see after this weekend and even into next week, that's when it starts to become a little hotter, I would say. By the middle to end of next week, temperatures start to spike back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. And the Climate Prediction Center is also showing a surge of warmer air really taking over the south again, meaning that the possibility of us seeing the return of above average temperatures, especially between August 14th and 20th, it looks like it's going to be likely. So again, I know many of you like the cool down, you like the cooler temperatures. If that's you, I'm saying just enjoy it. Enjoy today. It's just kind of a gloomy one, and tomorrow again going to stay relatively nice, kind of a middle ground with 80s returning. As far as the precipitation goes, if you want to go to the pool, if you want to go to the lake this weekend, now it's not going to be perfect, but 80s, that's all right. Small chances for a pop-up shower possible. And then especially on Monday, we'll see some more rain. Now this is what Futurecast could look like as we're heading into that 6 o'clock time frame. Maybe you're driving home from work or just into the later half of the day. Still cloudy, could still see a stray shower or two. And then again, as we're heading into our Friday, more sunshine. So looking forward to that. There's our 3-day forecast. 80-degree temperatures are on the way. Not so much today, but I do think by tomorrow we'll hit 80 degrees. And then there you go, Ben. This weekend, not looking bad whatsoever. Good mix of sun and clouds, 83 for a high on Saturday, and then getting warmer by about Wednesday, upper 80s and low 90s will return.
We're going to back inside the Impact studio here. We have a situation in Washington, D.C., where there was a shooting. A Maryland man shot and killed, or was shot and killed at a D.C. hotel. Apparently, a 27-year-old's family said he was protecting a woman when this person was shot. So we're getting more information from this. Let's go to this press conference now.
First of all, I think you know who I am. I'm Janine Ferris-Piro. I am now the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. And on May 22nd, I stood at this very podium to announce the initial charging of Elias Rodriguez, 31 years old, of Chicago, Illinois, to a community that was reeling because of one person's actions. Today, we in the United States Attorney's Office continue our journey to seek justice for not only 2, but 4 victims of this horrific crime, which has had enormous consequences and repercussions, not just in the district, but nationwide and worldwide. Not only affecting these victims and their families, but opening old wounds and re-victimizing victims of past anti-Semitism. Now, a few facts. On May 20 of 2025, Elias Rodriguez traveled from Chicago, Illinois to Washington, D.C. and brought with him a 9mm semi-automatic weapon. While on the plane, he traveled across
Sorry, guys, I had the
multiple
wrong
state
shooting.
lines.
We'll reconvene and correct this right after this.
On his iPhone. His explication made clear his purpose in committing these crimes that I'm about to read to you was to demonstrate his hatred for the people of Israel. The next day, on the afternoon of May 21, he purchased a ticket to attend a young diplomat's reception sponsored by the American Jewish Committee at the Capitol Jewish Museum, located just 2 blocks from here on 3rd Street in Northwest D.C. Now, the American Jewish Committee, of course, supports Israel and its right to exist in peace and security. That very same night, he watched as people left the reception. When he saw the 4 victims in this case, all of whom were from the Israeli embassy, he crossed the street, he opened fire, killing first Yaron Lashinsky, then killing Sarah Milgram, and when firing these fatal shots, he yelled, "Free Palestine." After he killed Yaron and Sarah, he entered the Capitol Jewish Museum, pulled out a red keffiyeh, and yelled, "I did it for Palestine," after which he was arrested. Now, a D.C. grand jury has charged in this indictment 2 hate crimes, alleging that he murdered Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram because of his bias against the people of Israel. He demonstrated this hatred through his words, "death to Israel," and his violent actions against Yaron and Sarah and their co-workers from the Israeli embassy. He also posted one of his postings on social media, "Please, please, please, God, please, vaporize every Israeli." And now to the charges. A grand jury in the District of Columbia has indicted Elias Rodriguez in a 9-count indictment with the following crimes. Count 1, murder of a foreign official under 18 U.S.C. 1116 for the murder of 30-year-old Yaron Lashinsky, a foreign official employed by the government of Israel. Counts 2 and 3 are hate crimes resulting in death. Under 18 U.S.C. 249, where the defendant crossed state lines, willfully caused bodily injury to Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram because of actual as well as perceived national origin, which resulted in both of their deaths. Counts 4 and 5, the discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence causing the death of a person through the use of a firearm. The defendant knowingly used, carried, and discharged a firearm during and in relation to a crime of violence, and with malice aforethought, he did unlawfully kill Yaron and Sarah with a firearm. Counts 6 and 7, first-degree murder while armed. Under the defendant, Rodriguez, with deliberate and premeditated malice, killed Yaron and Sarah by shooting each with a firearm, thereby causing injuries from which each died. Counts 8 and 9, assault with intent to kill while armed with a firearm. He assaulted CS and AT, those are initials, with intent to kill a person. Attached to this indictment are further findings of the grand jury. It's designated as a notice of special findings under 18 U.S.C. 3591 and 92. This begins the statutory process and whether to seek the death penalty. This is a weighty decision. It takes time. There will be a rigorous process, after which the capital case section in the Attorney General's office will advise the Attorney General, and the Attorney General herself will make a decision regarding whether or not this office will seek death against Elias Rodriguez. In that regard, I think it's important to identify a specific special finding, and I direct your attention to, I believe it's paragraph 28. Rodriguez committed an offense against Sarah Milgram in an especially heinous and cruel and depraved manner, in that it involved serious physical abuse to Sarah Milgram, who was particularly vulnerable due to infirmity. Now, let me close by saying that prior to speaking to you today, I spoke with the parents of Yaron Lashinsky as well as Sarah Milgram. The parents of Yaron are in Israel. Sarah's parents are in the United States. These are people who are broken because of one man's actions. These are people who should have been in-laws, but because of one man's action, they will never be able to celebrate a marriage that was intended or the grandchildren that would have resulted. The families want to thank the prosecutors in my office. They want to thank the FBI, the MPD, and all of the people in the Attorney General's office who have worked on this case, and they wanted me to send that message. And now I want to make something perfectly clear. Violence against anyone in this district will not be tolerated, especially violence which has hate at its core and is the genesis of violence. The president put me here to do a job, to clean up the district, to make sure that crime doesn't overshadow this phenomenal city, our nation's capital. And I have throughout my career fought anti-Semitism for 32 years as a prosecutor and a judge. I do so. I fight hate crimes with a vengeance. So don't even think about targeting people in this district because of who they are or because of where they're from. I promise you, justice will be swift and it will be certain. And I will work furiously and diligently with my phenomenal staff to make sure that we prosecute every one of these cases. This is the nation's capital. This is where we celebrate unity. Hate has no place, but justice will rule. And now I want to call upon Harmeet Dillon to my right. She is the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. You may know her, and I want to thank her and her division for helping us on this. Harmeet?
Thank you, Judge Janine, for your remarks and for your diligent work of your office on this matter. It is my weighty responsibility under federal law to certify any hate crime charges at the federal level in the United States, and we did that in this case with alacrity. The Civil Rights Division remains unwavering in the same commitment that you just heard from Judge Janine. Namely, there will be a zero-tolerance policy in this district and in these United States for any hate-motivated violence, including in this case on the basis of actual and or perceived national origin. The community in question has been reeling from a stream of violence that has been occurring in these United States for almost 2 years now. To those who seek to inflict further pain and suffering on Israeli communities, we will use every legal tool at our disposal to hold them accountable for these actions and deter future actions. The Civil Rights Division is committed to ensuring that every community in these United States is safe from violence, intimidation, and discrimination, as in this case. No one in America should fear for their life because of their faith, religion, ethnicity, or national origin. This indictment reflects our ongoing commitment to hold these criminals accountable, and we will continue to relentlessly pursue justice for Yaron and Sarah, their families, and their communities. I hope this beginning of this process brings some comfort to the many people in this community who have approached the Department of Justice and expressed their deep concern for their safety. I think no one can claim that this is not a serious problem here in our district right now, and it is embarrassing as an American to see that. Next, I'm going to introduce FBI District of Columbia Field Office Criminal Division Special Agent in Charge, Reed Davis.
Thank you, Judge Pirro. Thank you, AG Dillon. Good morning. My name is Reed Davis. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for the Washington Field Office Criminal Division. Today's announcement is a major step forward in our partners in the FBI's efforts to seek justice for the victims and the families of the horrific act at the Capitol Jewish Museum on May 21st. Since that tragic night, our FBI and DOJ victim specialists have forged relationships with the surviving victims and the families of the young couple who were ruthlessly murdered. They have maintained close contact and kept them apprised of significant investigative milestones in the case, and these victim specialists will remain in contact with the families until justice is served. FBI investigation to date indicates that the subject acted alone with the intent to commit a violent act in the District of Columbia. Based on his writings and communications, we believe he was a lone wolf actor, motivated by anti-Zionist and pro-Palestine ideology, with the goal of conducting a mass shooting to call attention to his political agenda. We wouldn't be at this stage without the significant support of our partners on the Washington Field Office Joint Terrorism Task Force, including the Metropolitan Police Department, the Diplomatic Security Service, the U.S. Capitol Police, and many others who have left no stone unturned in this investigation. The FBI field offices across the country also provided vital support, especially our Chicago field office, which conducted numerous interviews. In addition, we are extremely grateful to the members of the D.C. community who shared video footage of the subject's movements. We continue to seek information from the public relevant to this case and others, as we see the spread of ideology-motivated violence and mass casualty events across the nation. Taking violent action in support of one's political or personal beliefs is abhorrent, it's unacceptable, and the FBI will rigorously investigate and aggressively pursue those who choose to do so. Our work is not done. This indictment is the next step towards justice, and we'll continue to support the prosecution of the subject through our investigation. And now more than ever, we need the public to be vigilant and report to law enforcement any concerns they may have of an individual who may be considering violent actions. Thank you, and now I'd like to turn it over to MPD Assistant Chief Ramey Kyle.
Good morning. I'm Assistant Chief Ramey Kyle of the Investigative Services Bureau at the Metropolitan Police Department. Since our officers apprehended Elias Rodriguez and recovered the murder weapon moments after the shooting, our homicide detectives have tirelessly pursued justice. MPD has a solemn obligation of investigating every homicide occurring in the District of Columbia, a duty we do not take lightly. Our detectives work closely with our partners at the FBI Washington Field Office. As this case progressed and as the investigation traveled outside of our city and outside of our jurisdiction. The charges unveiled here this morning underscore our collective commitment to ensuring Rodriguez faces the maximum punishment possible. Calling this a shooting alone doesn't begin to describe the vicious and hateful attack. Rodriguez traveled halfway across the country, came to our city with the intent to murder people simply because of who they are, what they believed, and where they came from. Hate has no place in our community. We continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with all those impacted by the loss of Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram. MPD strongly supports the religious community here in Washington, D.C. We have maintained a heightened presence at religious institutions, And we are in regular contact with leaders of all faiths and work to safeguard our houses of worship. As always, we remind our community to remain vigilant and immediately report any suspicious activity. I want to commend the dozens of MPD officers and fellow first responders that rushed to the Capitol Jewish Museum that night. These brave men and women, they did not know the nature of the threat they were running toward and acted swiftly to take this suspect into custody. I want to thank our partners here at the United States Attorney's Office and the FBI Washington Field Office for their commitment to pursuing justice. Every agency involved in this investigation has worked together seamlessly from the very beginning. And lastly, I want to express our gratitude to our local community for providing tips and video that helped our detectives with this case. I also want to thank our community for supporting our Jewish community in the face of this awful tragedy. Thank you, and I'll now turn it back to Judge Pirro.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions?
Could you clarify as far as the death penalty is concerned? I'm unclear. Are you recommending to the Attorney General that the DOJ go ahead with this death penalty designation, or is this something that you're saying flat out that you're seeking the death penalty?
Okay. Thank you for the question. And what the special findings attached to the indictment, and if you get a copy of the indictment, you'll find it, is an indication that there is a process that we are considering right now. And the Department of Justice has a very rigorous internal process for determining and reviewing cases to determine whether the death penalty is appropriate. The capital case section is responsible for conducting the review. The review includes an examination of all the evidence and of the charges. The defendant is allowed to submit information for consideration by the capital case section as well, which is one of the reasons that we attach these special findings. Once this review is completed, it is then that the Attorney General will determine whether or not to authorize my office to seek death. So the simple question, or the simple answer to your important question is, we are starting the process. We've made no decision yet. Yes, sir.
Judge Pirro, go ahead, sir.
There's been reporting in addition after an attack earlier this week on a Trump administration DOJ official that the Trump administration was making plans to increase federal law enforcement throughout the city. Can you confirm if that's accurate and what your office is aware of?
You know, my understanding is that both the Trump administration as well as the Metropolitan Police Department are looking to increase law enforcement efforts because of the violence we're seeing across this country, across this city. I'm not sure specifically what you're referring to, but we just have too much crime.
Yeah, she's not wrong. That's why I got the shooting wrong at the beginning of this press conference. But finally, an update here on the man that they've been talking about, Mr. Rodriguez, who entered a formal plea in court after the fatal shooting on May 21st. The indictment obviously following some of what's happened inside of court. So 10 different charges connected with the killings of Israeli embassy staff members that happened earlier this year. We do have Nick Carboni, who is here, going to give us all the Panthers training camp news. Obviously, it's joint practices. They have a big game coming tomorrow. So let's just start there. A lot of excitement in the city here, Nick.
Yeah, listen, a preseason game, especially the first one here in early August, doesn't really generally have a lot of juice, but this one does, and that is because of the approaches and the availabilities of each team's quarterback. So Bryce Young will start this game. Remember last year, Dave Canales, then a rookie head coach, chose not to put Bryce Young out there until the last of 3 preseason games. And that went for the other starters as well. So by the time they got to week 1 in New Orleans, they just did not look in sync, did not look together. In fact, Young threw an interception on the first play, and they lost 47-10. So a reversal in approach by Dave Canales has Bryce Young going out there. He hopes that he plays 8 to 12 snaps, whether that's in 1 series or 2, we'll see. And then on the other side, Cleveland has 5 quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders, obviously the hot name right now. He is number 4 on the depth chart, but he will start in the game. That's because Kenny Pickett has a nagging injury. Dylan Gabriel, Sanders' fellow draft classmate, has a nagging injury. Joe Flacco has a nagging injury, which is called being 40 years old. So he will not be out there tomorrow night. I'm almost 40, so I can say that. So it is up to Shedeur Sanders tomorrow night to start for the Browns. And really, this is his first big opportunity, Colin, because he's been taking reps so deep down the depth chart all training camp. This is his first big opportunity to say, you shouldn't have passed on me a handful of times, Cleveland. Everybody else in the league, you shouldn't have passed on me. He's been really humble in the things that he has said about falling down in the draft and not wanting to be a distraction to his teammates, given his family name and who his dad is. He's gone about it the right way so far, and now he's going to get a chance preseason week 1 here in uptown Charlotte tomorrow night.
Going to look good, going to sound good. I hope they do well out on the field as well. Let's talk about the receiver depth. I've heard a lot of people talk a lot about them, even Ocho Cinco earlier in the week or last week, saying they could be the most talented receiver room in the NFL. And that's saying a lot. We know that in the same division, the Buccaneers, man, they've got quite the receiver room themselves. But man, these guys, they really could play well together. Some standouts. I know you guys had a one-on-one with Jalen Coker. A lot of folks are looking forward to seeing him. Jimmy Horn, I mean, that guy runs routes like nobody's business. What are you thinking about in terms of, the depth chart, what it looks like, and, kind of how those guys will all work together with Bryce Young?
Yeah, the Ocho Cinco tweet about it being the best receiving core in the NFL is obviously not the case.
Yeah, right.
But I think that it's a group that Panthers fans are excited about and should be excited about relative to what they've had here the last couple of years with Bryce Young as quarterback. I know he's excited about it. So I think you've got different types of receivers, and you kind of broke that down. Tyrone McMillan, big, tall, smooth athlete, big, wide catch radius. Behind him, you've got Xavier Legette, who had 8 drops last year, but he was open to get those drops. That's the positive side of that. Now in year 2, he's got to clean some of that up, but he is a big-bodied, great runner with the football. He can get you a lot of yards after catch, and so can McMillan. You've got Adam Thielen returning as really the best receiver on this roster the last 2 seasons. He's still got a lot of juice and a lot of legs left in his career. At least he showed so last year and was mostly healthy last season. And then beyond that, Jalen Coker, undrafted free agent, put up 400 or 500 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. And physically, as you mentioned, Danielle Stein got a chance to talk to him yesterday. He looks the part. He is really starting to develop into an NFL caliber receiver body, and he can do a lot of different things. He can play in the slot. He can go get a 50-50 ball. Hunter Renfrow was a great story the first week and a half of camp. Haven't seen him since then. He's been out with a hamstring tweak. I'm not sure rainy days at practice and this first preseason game are the time to roll him back out. We'll see if he can kind of come back and recapture some of that momentum he had. And the forgotten man for a lot of people is David Moore, veteran wide receiver who came in last year, familiar with Dave Canales and his system, and made big catches more often than not for Bryce Young in key situations, 3rd downs, big drives. He was able to rely on David Moore, and I don't think you can shake your head at that. You've got Jimmy Horn Jr., who you mentioned they drafted in the 6th round, but he's got a lot of exciting tools. He's fast. He can get to the spot quicker than a lot of defensive backs. Now, can he put it together? I think he's going to make the roster regardless because of that investment in him and because of his potential. I'm not sure he'll be an impact player right away this season, but I'm very interested to see what he looks like in the preseason because he's going to get a lot of chances out there with Andy Dalton and then 3rd string quarterback Jack Plummer. One name that we've started to talk about the last 4 or 5 days, Colin, really since FanFest last Saturday, is Bryson Tremaine. He's a tall wide receiver. Some say he kind of looks like a tight end type body. Number 87 out there. He's made some really good catches dating back to FanFest and then to close yesterday's practice right in the end zone against the Browns defense. And Dave Canales told us he absolutely has a chance to make the team because he also plays special teams. And that's big for Dave Canales. And most football coaches, the more you can do. If you can play special teams and provide a role there, it doesn't necessarily have to be a returner, although some of them are, then that increases your chance to make the team, especially if you're in the back end of that receiver room.
Okay. I feel like there's been so much talk about the offense. I know we've spent some time with the defense, with defenders, with guys who will be out there. I know J.C. Horn was off the field in street clothes because of a accident. I know he tweeted yesterday he was all good. So, if you would update us there. And I think the big question that a lot of folks are going to have here, the linebacking core, right? The defensive line seems like they've got a lot of good guys that could push those offensive linemen around. And obviously the defensive backfield speaks for itself with J.C. Horn. But, what are your, I wouldn't say concerns, but the questions going into preseason and then into the season, especially for that core?
Yeah, I think the second starting safety is a big question. And is the linebacker room, are the starters enough for what the Panthers want to see? Yeah. So I think after a few preseason games, the Panthers will tell us with their actions or inactions. Okay. Are they going out and getting another safety? Are they going out and getting another linebacker? Starting with safety, they really let the entire safety room from last season walk this offseason. They brought in Trayvon Merrick, big physical safety from the Las Vegas Raiders, who is on the upswing of his career. He looks the part. I don't think there's any concerns there. It's next to him. How are they going to fill that role? Mm-hmm. But I think they probably like where they are at safety more than they like where they are at linebacker, because you've got some young players who other veteran players talk about like they're equal. Like they are starting caliber. Yeah. Lathan Ransom, he's kind of the hot name this week because he's made a lot of plays. Danielle Stein also interviewed him. Yeah. 4th round pick out of Ohio State, plays with that big hair on fire. Yeah. Made some big hits in FanFest. Maybe one of them crossed the line a little. But, he's physical. And obviously they made the investment in him with the draft pick. But then you've also got Damani Richardson, who is not a big name, not a first-round pick, but somebody that they found kind of uncovered last year and made an impact when he was out on the field, got an interception. So he's had every opportunity to show himself. They've got Nick Scott back as well. And then at the nickel corner position, a position that nobody really talks about but is so important because you're relied upon in the coverage game with all these spread formations and 4 or 5 wide receivers at a time, but you also have to be willing and able to step up in the run game. And Shaw Smith-Wade is the player that showed himself to be able to do that last year. Had a big interception of Baker Mayfield at home. Unfortunately, they lost that game. Right. But has good play on tape for this coaching staff, and he is going to be a player that we don't really talk about a lot that is going to actually be a very big part of this defense. Okay. So that's kind of the secondary. Move to the linebacking room. Lose Josie Jewell right at the beginning of training camp. Still working through concussion protocol. Scary stuff for him. I would put the odds on him not coming back and not coming back to the Panthers. So that leaves you with Christian Roseboom, who had a similar situation happen to him in L.A. with the Rams, where he had to step up in an unexpected starting role, and he racked up 127 tackles. Right. Now, the amount of tackles, it's a positive. It's not the end-all, be-all. Right. I mean, it's like, batting average as a stat in baseball now, or ERA, I should say, wins losses for pitchers. Okay. It doesn't tell the whole story, but he got a lot of tackles, so that's at least a good thing. Right. And similarly, second-year linebacker Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky last year, he was not expected to start. He was not expected to be the guy wearing the green dot, having the communication with the defensive coordinator, then relaying it to his teammates, but he had to. So you've got guys that have recently had to step up in situations because of injury at linebacker, and now they are again. Will GM Dan Morgan, former Pro Bowl linebacker, think that's enough in the next couple of weeks? I think that's what we're about to find out. They did sign Chris Barnes, who's kind of a depth piece last week, but has a lot of experience, and that's what they're looking for. I'm not sure they'll be able to get a top-line starter. I don't think they're trading for the one in Dallas, right? But that situation may resolve itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Brad and I always talk about Shaq Thompson and then Frankie Louvu.
They missed Frankie Louvu a lot. That would solve for X, Frankie right? Louvu. If Frankie Louvu was still here, he was the one that got away in their minds in free agency 2 years ago.
Yeah, he plays with his hair on fire too.
Oh yeah.
All right. What else am I missing, man? I set the scene for us on Saturday. As you said, starters are going to play for a little bit of time. It'll be interesting to see how Bryce Young plays, areas. I know a lot of folks have been talking about that, how the defense plays. I know I did bring up J.C. Horn. I don't expect he's going to be suited
He won't
up.
play.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think the biggest thing we're going to be watching, because of that reversal in approach to play the starters and Bryce Young right away, is how everything all looks out on the field together and keeping Bryce Young clean, because it's live.
Yep.
There is contact on the quarterback.
Yep.
So 8 to 12 plays is what Canales is looking for. Could be one series, could be two. But how does Bryce Young operate? How does he spread the ball around to some of these new weapons he has? How do they run the ball with Chuba Hubbard and now Rico Dowdle, 2 1,000-yard backs from last year? And remember, this offensive line, even beyond the 5 starters, even the depth of the offensive line, all returns from last year. So hopefully that means keeping Bryce Young clean tomorrow night. But yeah, I mean, these 2 weeks, Dave Canales is going to give Bryce Young a lot of work.
Yeah.
A joint practice this week, a preseason game this week.
Yeah.
A joint practice next week down in Houston, a preseason game next week. That is a lot more work and a lot more ability to get a feel with everybody than I think 12 attempts last year in the 3rd preseason game.
Yeah,
so I think that's probably going to help this team hopefully get off to a better start.
Yeah. Obviously, keep our fingers crossed. Just excited for football to be back almost, right, in that preseason mode. Anything else from training camp that you want to update us on? I'm obviously looking forward to all the receivers, the defense playing well as well. But anything?
Yeah, tight end's an interesting position. Tommy Tremble had back surgery, later in the offseason than you'd probably like. They finally decided that was the best course of action. So that was in May. He's been rehabbing. I mean, he's doing a lot more than you might expect somebody to do after having May back surgery. But he has not been in any drills, even individual drills or anything yet. So he's not available for a while. In the meantime, you've got second-year tight end Jatavian Sanders, who they drafted from Texas last year, had some flashes, had a scary neck and head injury towards the end of last season and never really picked up where he left off. He looks really good. He's slimmed down. He is fast for a tight end. He's kind of that move tight end mold. Sure, he'll have to block sometimes and be in line, but they want him to be a tight end that can, catch passes, move the chains. They also drafted Mitchell Evans, tight end from Notre Dame this offseason, who may be more of a mix between the two. I've seen him get a lot of reps. Tommy Tremble's out, so that helps you get with the twos, but he's had a lot of reps. And then James Mitchell, kind of a journeyman who was behind an all-pro tight end in Detroit. He's in camp, and he's made some really nice catches. So that will be a very interesting position to track these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, cannot wait. As you kind of said, looking forward to seeing Lathan Ransom play. Hopefully, he'll bring the boom in some of these games. It'll be fun.
Yeah, the defensive line, too. I mean, I failed to mention that. It may be the most improved group on paper for the Panthers. You get 2 rookie all-SEC edge rushers in Nick Scorton and Princely Uman-Mielen. They're going to get their opportunities against Shedeur Sanders tomorrow night. It is Shedeur Sanders against the top line Panthers defense, at least for the first series or two. And Derek Brown, I believe we'll see out there. I'm not sure that's been confirmed yet. They may still take it easy with him. But Bobby Brown, who they brought in, Ashawn Robinson, who's back, they really like what they've done with this defensive front. Pat Jones coming in, DJ Wanham returning from last year. They let Clowney walk in free agency, obviously. I don't believe he's still signed with the team. But yeah, let's see how this defensive front looks like. We're all eyes on Bryce Young, but when he comes off the field, you got to keep an eye on the defensive line starters.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people want to see both these quarterbacks do well, right? And just not too well on the Cleveland side.
And listen, it's preseason, but yeah, you don't want to see Shedeur Sanders come in,
turn it up.
the 4th string quarterback in a bad Browns quarterback room, carve up your number 1 defense.
No,
for
you
sure.
do not.
But it could be a chance for this defense to get off on a good foot and get some confidence too.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be fireworks nonetheless.
Yeah.
All right, Nick Carboni, making sure that we know everything ahead of tomorrow's game. Nick, love your assessment and your expertise, man. Appreciate you.
You got it. Yeah, anytime.
All right. Obviously, we'll be watching with you tomorrow night. I think the game is for 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. All right, 7 o'clock tomorrow. So we will be making sure that we get the latest and the highlights for you, bringing it to you right here on WCNC and WCNC Plus. We have been talking about a situation in Pennsylvania where 2 troopers were shot. There's an ongoing press conference happening right now with the governor, Josh Shapiro. We're going to go to this live.
They are very lucky to be alive. Trooper Parashinsky was able to place a tourniquet on Trooper Jenkins. And despite both of their patrol cars being riddled, a third trooper was able to get in and evacuate them. And the incident evolved from there. Again, more information to come on the specifics of that, but we're very lucky today with the two troopers, and we're thankful. Our hearts and prayers go out to both of them and their families, as well as the community in Susquehanna County. And as the governor said, this is troopers 5 and 6 who've been shot since January of 2023. We've had one shot fatally. So we're very appreciative of the work that gets done by the women and men of the state police and our local and fellow state and federal partners on a daily basis. We've received support from the New York State Police, who is a frequent collaborative partner for our troopers up in the northern tier, operating out of Gibson and Wayne County, and we're very much in debt to the purple ties and Stetsons of the New York State Police, as well as our municipal partners today. So more to come on that, but that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Let me just add one final piece here. I spent some time with the doctors and nurses and the staff here at Geisinger. They're extraordinary. They do amazing work. And we were lamenting the fact that this is my second visit here to the hospital in roughly a year or so. We were here, of course, for Gil Martin. And I think it gets lost sometimes in our society, the incredible work these healthcare providers offer to our community, and we're really indebted to them as well. And so I want to thank them, and I want to thank the entire Geisinger family.
And were you able to have a conversation with Trooper Parashinsky? What was the conversation like? How was he?
I was able to spend time with him and his family. He is in good spirits. He's beat up pretty good, but he's going to be okay. He was there with his girlfriend Bree, who is also a state trooper, along with his father, who's a police chief, and his mother as well, and many other members of their family. They're clearly a tight-knit family, and they're a law enforcement family. And I must say it was really uplifting and spiritual, frankly, to be with them. They're in such good spirits that we were, busting chops a little bit, which is always a good sign. When a cop can bust chops, it means they're going to be okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Are you good? Rosie can give you what we said earlier. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to leave this as it just ended and go to Nancy Pelosi, who just toured the San Francisco Veterans Association and giving her experience. This just happened in San Francisco minutes ago.
Of meeting the needs of our veterans. Their needs are not just healthcare at healthcare veterans facilities. They're what they need also at home. Veterans tell us as we go into this fight that we're having over the bill that they need Medicare, that they need Medicaid, they need Medicaid, they need Medicaid, they need Medicaid. They need food, they need food stamps and the rest. It's almost shameful that our military need food stamps, but even in the military they do, as well as their housing is a big issue from a standpoint of mental health, as well as obligations to our veterans. So today, as we honor our veterans, we honor them not just by saying thanks for your service, we honor them by honoring their service with meeting their needs and listening to them as to what their needs are. When I listen to the veterans outside of the setting, but in our community and across the country, they talk about housing, they talk about food, they talk about Medicaid, they talk about a wide range of subjects in addition to meeting their health care. And they are, I feel for my brothers who are in the Army. I'm from Maryland, where we have the Naval Academy. We have a little debate over the Army-Navy game, but nonetheless. And our uncle, he received the Purple Heart when he was killed in the World War II. So again, a recognition by all of us, by families in our country, to the service that members of their families have paid. As I say, every day should be a day to honor our veterans. I'm proud to join our House Democrats in having this day of honoring as well as a day of action to improve the policies, improve the budget, to stop the privatization that the Republicans have been advocating for. That's not anything that's not what my purpose in there is, but my purpose to all of you is. And in the bill that they had put forth just last week, when we were last there, that we all the Democrats, practically all the Democrats voted against, was to stop the privatization. They had a 67% increase in the privatization of the VA, of the community care rather than the veterans' health care. So we want it to be the best, and we have an example of the best here. And I come here to sing their praises, to honor our veterans, and to thank those who are serving them in such a way that respects their dignity as well as the service that they provided to our country. Any questions about this subject?
On topics?
First. What action, so it's Purple Heart Day. Can you tell us a little bit about people in there that you were able to talk with, how that's reflective of the effort in trying to prevent this privatization?
Well, we didn't really go into policy with the veterans, just to be happy to meet them and the rest. And I've been there been here any number of times. And Purple Heart Day, I was just with Mike Thompson over the weekend, and he is part of this region. The statement that we gave to them a year ago, in September, actually a year ago, Mike Thompson was a part of that, and he's received Purple Heart, as I said. My uncle did too. And we have, so in terms of the privatization piece, we were not putting that burden.
Needs to do in order to make some advances in the next election cycle?
Well, let me just say that in the last election, we actually, House Democrats, picked up a seat. Everybody says, oh, everybody lost everything. No, we gained a seat. We're only 3 votes short of having Hakeem Jeffries be the Speaker of the House. I have, yes, in 2006, when I became Speaker, I became Speaker because I changed it from a Republican majority to a Democratic majority. It was the first time since 1992 that the Democrats had controlled the House when we won that year. And we won it because we had a fight. We fought them. They wanted to privatize Social Security. They had a culture of corruption, cronyism, and incompetence in their governance of the country, and we made sure the public knew that. We won so many seats. In 2018, again, we had a Republican president. In 2018, we came forward and we had, again, a very positive. They were trying to go after Affordable Care Act. President then Trump said, Affordable Care Act sucks. Forgive me, I'm just quoting the distinguished President of the United States. He said, Obamacare sucks. And we said, no, it doesn't suck. It cures. And we won 40 seats, 31 of them in Trump districts. We'll do something similar this time. We will win the House. That has been my focus, is to win the House for the Democrats, for the American people, to reverse what they are doing to our Medicare, Medicaid, so even threatening food that children eat and the rest of that. We want to make sure people know. And when we are running our campaigns, it's about what we see as a contrast between the President's administration and the House and congressional Democrats, and we fully intend to win. And that's our focus.
And respectfully, with the discord in the party, how do you hope to do that? Are you seeing yourself as being the main pusher in that, or do you see other people within the party as helping?
I don't even know. People talk about the discord in the party. We're at the Democratic Party. We have differences of opinion. I don't even know what you mean by the discord in the Democratic Party. I really don't. Okay, here's the coin. It's the symbol of the speaker on one side, the mace, and then it's the Capitol on the other side. I don't know if you want to hold it to the camera or something like that.
Yes, and then we'll...
No, I really... The Democratic Party has always had its differences. I wouldn't want to be a leader in a party that was lockstep, everybody taking orders from on high. This is a party that's where our policy springs from the people and from the members and from the grassroots, and I'm excited about that. And I know people talk about discord. Yeah, there's some disagreements, but I don't think that that's any obstacle to our winning the House. I think, in fact, it's going to be, Hakeem will be, in 3 months, I'll be able to tell you how many seats we're going to win. That'll be a year before the election. That'll be a time when we see who runs, who actually decides to run on their side, who decides to step aside, and we will have our A-team out there. And we will be making sure that the public knows the difference between the two parties. It's not about any disagreement we may have about one thing or another. It's about the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Do you think California will redistrict then? And who are you talking about redistricting with?
Our caucus, House Democratic Caucus, has tasked our chair of our delegation, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, and the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, Pete Aguilar, to do our planning for us, and I'm following their lead. And we're very. But what this redistricting is Medicaid. It's about Medicare. It's about SNAP. It's about housing. It's about so many things Republicans are not about, that they voted against time and time and time again. So this is it's not politics. It's about meeting the needs of the people. And I'm very proud of Zoe. I'm very proud of Congresswoman Lofgren and of Chairman Aguilar for how they have the planning that they have done to take us. Our grassroots folks, we had 300,000 springing from our California effort. To the Republican House on the stinking, lousy, dirty, rotten bill that they had. 300,000. Nothing is more eloquent to a member of Congress than the voice of their own constituent. And see, these calls went to Republican districts from their constituents. From their constituents. They heard from their constituents. We, shall we say, instigated a lot of that. Yeah.
We've got time for 3 more off topics. Go to KQED first.
Yeah, going back to redistricting, what do you think of the prospects of California's effort, opening up more and more states doing mid-decade redistricting? Is that something that concerns you?
Well, let me just say this. I'm not a big fan of mid-decade redistricting. When